representing the Western Caroline District, Mr. Reginald Underwood, representing the Reedy Church District, Mr. Wayne Akers, representing the Madison District, Mr. Jeff Seeley, representing the Bowling Green District, and I'm Calvin Taylor, and I represent the Port Royal District. At this time, we would ask Mr. Floyd Thomas if you would give us invocation, if you would.
I'll be happy to.
Thank you.
Let us all please stand. Dear Father God, we come before you this day, thanking you for the many blessings you've given us. We thank you for your mercy. We now ask your wisdom, guide us and direct us so all we do may glorify your name and all we do may be in the best for the citizens of Caroline. These and all things I pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, if you gentlemen would now lead us in the pledge.
After you take your hat off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Any board member have an amendment, or Mr. Colley?
I've asked, and Mr. Taylor, you and I discussed this. I've asked Mr. Cully and Mr. Parton if they would prepare a resolution honoring Round Oak Baptist Church on their 175th.
Okay. Okay, we will do that, and maybe we will go ahead and make a form of a motion.
If I could make that motion, that
Right.
we would add it to the consent agenda,
Okay.
and Mr. Parton will have it ready for your presentation this weekend.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Okay. Is there a second? Second. Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we would prepare a resolution for Round Oak Baptist Church commemorating their, I believe it's 170th?
75th.
75th anniversary. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, let it be known by, motion carries unanimously. Okay. That takes us to opening board comments. Mr. Thomas, do you have any at this time?
Well, I've got a couple. I see Mr. Nelson's here, and mine were for VDOT. So those are, I guess, things that I can wait for him to come. The other thing is I would urge the board to approve agenda item number 8, which is the expedited public hearing in the Mattaponi district. And that's all. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Black, do you have any?
Yeah, I have several, Mr. Chairman. First of all, want to say congratulations, obviously, to the agricultural fair that took place in July. That was a great success. They had to deal with some inclement weather, but it seems to get better and better every single year. So I'd like to congratulate all the people who organized that. Also, on August, I think it was the 5th, we had National Night Out, and that was in Lake Landor. That was a huge success. A lot of people turned out for that. So that seems to get better and better every year. The other thing, too, is I'd like to say to the Little Leaguers here today, I'd like to congratulate you personally. Your accomplishments, it's not something that's unnoticed by the county. You should be very proud of that. As you guys grow up later in life, you'll always remember the teammates for these particular teams. That's pretty special. Don't forget to thank your coaches and your parents for, I'm sure, all the practices and hard work that they put in to get you guys where you are. So we are proud of you on that. Mr. Nelson, I need to talk to you a little bit too. I've got some questions. I'll wait to your point in the meeting. Mr. Cully, I was wondering on the schools, have we started working on the MOU for the park, or where we are? Are we talking with them about that park in Ladies' Night?
We met with the new superintendent, and we're working on that. We're trying to pull a 2-on-2 with the school board together so we can work out the details of that.
Okay. And the last question I have for you, we made, August 1st, we made a YMCA payment of $102,000, $103,000, correct?
That is correct. It was a budgeted amount.
And do we know, Mr. Akers, you may be able to answer this, do we know, is the fundraising, because I saw in the paper, whatever the fundraisers came to us, they are no longer raising money, it said in the paper for what they're doing. Is there a fundraising organization that is around that is raising money for the Y?
I have no idea.
Okay. because we have $792,000 in interest only that we spent on that. So, all right, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Underwood, do you have any opening board comments?
Just to Mr. Chairman, thank you. For my first comment, I want to thank Mr. Wilson and Mr. Fincham for attending a community meeting last Thursday where we met with the Vice President of Metal Event Park to discuss the fireworks and what it meant to the residents there. And it was a very good meeting, and I appreciate her coming and appreciate staff working to pull that all together, and I think we'll see the benefit of it tonight in a motion. Secondly, on September the 3rd, I'm going to be having a community and police relationship meeting at the Metal Event Park in the Pavilion. Many of the citizens continue to be concerned about the things that go on across the United States, and we want to be proactive, begin a dialogue with our state police, our sheriff, and our EMS to make sure that we're proactive in building relationships so we don't see some of the things that are occurring across the county, across the country occur within Reedy District and within Caroline County. That'll be September 3rd, 6:30 to 8:30. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Akers, do you have opening board comments?
I do, Mr. Chairman. National Night Out, there was a celebration at Lake Caroline as well as Ladysmith Village, and both of those were well attended. Kim Taylor at Lake Caroline, which I know that she was in charge of that, did a tremendous job in putting it together, and there was a lot of people there, and everyone seemed to enjoy the festivities, and Ladysmith Village, pretty much the same thing. There were a lot of people there as well. That's all my.
Thank you, Mr. Akers. Mr. Seeley, do you have opening board comments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to remind everybody we've been having music on the green and Bowling Green on Friday nights at 6:30. Turnout's been good. I think a lot more people would probably enjoy it. We have another one this Friday night and the following Friday night. It's family friendly. There's food being sold there. A lot of kids having a good time. I just encourage everybody to come out and listen to the music and enjoy the night out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. I only have one. I happen to be chairman of the Virginia Association of Counties Education Steering Committee. And what that committee does is we meet with supervisors or representatives from different counties across the state, and we try to initiate a platform from VACO that talks about school issues, and we try to get the General Assembly to focus on certain issues that will be of help to the school system, funding issues and different other issues as far as facilities building, and we just try to get the General Assembly to do more in providing funding for schools. And so we met on Friday the 14th, and we had a very good meeting, and we are in the process now of preparing an agenda to be sent to the General Assembly to try and assist in getting better funding for education. So I think that's a good thing, and seeing all the students here today, and in a few minutes recognizing them for the great accomplishments that they've made, it's only right that we should do what we can to provide the necessary funding for our young people. Having said that, that takes us to presentations and reports, and we will now recognize the Caroline Little League All-Star teams. If you would come forward at this time, the two teams, maybe you might want to just line up across the front if you want to, and we will read the resolution and pass out some pins and recognize you for your greatness, the things that you have accomplished. while they're coming, I want to read the resolution. And we have some pins, and I believe some certificates, and, okay, all right. This is a resolution congratulating the Caroline County Little League Intermediate Division All-Stars, and also a resolution congratulating the Caroline County Little League Senior Division All-Stars. And it reads as follows. Whereas the Caroline County Little League Intermediate Division, as well as the Little League Senior Division All-Stars, ages 11 through 13, the District 15 Tournament and Sealton Sports Complex in King George County, and the team advanced to the state tournament in Alexandria, where they defeated Arlington and gained valuable experience. And whereas the team consists of manager Blake Brown, coach J.D. Scott, coach Kenny Moore, and players Reagan Brown, DeAndre Cephas, John Chapman, Jordan Chapman, Lucas Chenault, Garnett Cooper, Maya High, Hunter Moore, Travis Nitterman, Caleb Scott, Toby Summers, Kyle Tingen, and Jason Wilkinson. And whereas the team's accomplishments are very impressive and have both credit and recognition to Caroline County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby congratulates and commends the Caroline County Little League Intermediate Division All-Stars for a job well done and extends its best wishes for continued success in the future. And it's adopted the 18th day of August 2015 and is signed by the clerk of the board, Charles Cully, and Calvin B. Taylor, chairman of the board. If we could give them a hand, and I will also read the resolution for the senior division as well. Whereas the Caroline County Little League Senior Division All-Stars won the District 15 tournament at Cortland High School in Spotsylvania County, and whereas the team advanced to the state tournament in Purcellville where they finished in 4th place, and whereas the team consists of manager Bo Seal, coach Larry England, coach Richard Knowles, and players Malik Banks, Colton Cecil, Zachary Cooper, Matthew DeMeyer, Taylor England, Dominique Garner, Cameron Knowles, Colin Knowles, Cody Limbrick, Ryan Proctor, Zachary Proctor, Jordan Ryan, and Cliff Seal. And whereas the team's accomplishments are very impressive and have brought credit and recognition to Caroline County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors congratulates and commends the Caroline County Little League Senior Division All-Stars for a job well done and extends its best wishes for continued success in the future. And it is also adopted the 18th day of August 2015, signed by the clerk of the board, Charles Cully, and Chairman Calvin B. Taylor. Thank you. Mr. Seeley has a question for you.
Can one of the coaches tell us who the sponsors were? Because everybody who plays ball knows that somebody behind the scene is sponsoring their teams, and I think that's as important as anything. So can somebody tell us who sponsored the coach? You know, coaches tell us, or some of the players tell us? There's a microphone right up here. Oh, come on, you can do it.
I don't know all the sponsors that sponsored the senior team, but Giuseppe's Pizza in Ladysmith does a lot for us, and he helped us out a whole lot. He was,
Oh, there he is. Read the back of his shirt.
oh, there you go.
Can we read those off?
Sure.
Come on, Kenny, you can do it. You can do it.
Who needs glasses?
So it's Atlantic Builders, Service Master of Winchester, Van Gorder Contracting, Drainfield Solutions, Evans Heating and Air, Fencescapes, REC, David Brooks Hauling, Homestead Hardware, Village Self-Storage, Integrity Landscaping, James River Equipment, Eubank Automotive, C&B Tree Service, Chuck Coyle, Crab Aviation, and John Robb Custom Homes. And then, of course, we've mentioned Giuseppe's. Also, Roma's Restaurant, sponsored Intermediate Division, along with the Timbers Restaurant, Chenault's Landscaping, Scrub and Bubbles Car Wash, and Mr. and Mrs. Gary Moore.
And those folks need to be thanked as well, because you don't have Little League without all those folks behind you, and I just want to make sure we thank them.
Again, but before you go, we have some pins and some certificates, and Ms. Hall is...
Can we take a group picture? Because I haven't been around this many baseball players in a long time.
Yeah, what we can do is, once we give those out, if they want to come up here, and we can all get a group picture after that. And while she's coming, again, we would just like to thank these young men and women, as well as the sponsors, the coaches, for all the time that you put in with our young people, especially those businesses that sponsor them as well. We very much appreciate the results of what you've done. So we're going to just give out the...
Yeah, but we're going to do one in here with all of them standing in front of us.
We want to get one up here too, and then can you get them all up here, you think? But we'll do the best we can.
Oh, we probably need to be in that corner there. Because he's going to be way over there. What's up, man? My man.
Gentlemen, gentlemen, can you go over this way, over in this corner, over in this corner, bring it right around.
I knew you could pull that.
Oh, come on. I didn't know if you
Come on,
wanted
you've done this all before. Some in the front, some in the back, all the ones in the back.
What if we did them in two groups?
Let's get them in two, yeah. Thank you.
Two groups.
Two groups. Okay. Which group are you in? With them? No.
Right.
Someone in the old down?
You can come up if you want to.
Parents can come up and take pictures
Thank you.
as much as you want.
We were gonna anyway.
Of course, I won't be able to see them. Up over there. Okay, hey, bring it in a little tighter. Bring it in a little tighter. There you go. You're getting there. Okay, you guys can back up a little bit. Right. That front row. Oh, you can back up a little bit.
When Mark gets ready. There you go, Mark. There you go. Excuse me, I have to get back here.
All right. Not too bad. Okay, now a couple more while I'm at it. One more yet. Thank you.
Okay, hold on. Does the board want to get in the picture? Yes, I do. Let's stand over here. Got it right there.
That's a loaded question. About 8 kids.
Yeah, it's about 8 kids. That was the most fun we're gonna have.
I think so. I was just, sorry about that. I think I'll do the shifting.
All right, good luck. Thank you.
Okay, we'll just give them a minute to kind of clear out, and then we'll go on with our. Now, y'all don't have to leave. You can stay to the whole meeting if you like, but okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, our next agenda item is a request from Bowling Green Senior High School Alumni Association. If there is a representative from that group, and while she's coming forward, just to refresh any board member's memory, there was a request for some lettering for this building that would show that it was at one time Bowling Green Senior High School. I think they came maybe a couple of years ago, and I think the board asked them to give us an example of what it was that they would like to do or like to erect, and they've done that. Looks very nice. So having said that, I will let you go ahead and make whatever remarks you would like.
All right. My name is Cindy Sale. I'm here representing the alumni of Bowling Green Senior High. And I want to thank you all for your time tonight and allowing us to discuss this memorial again. The alumni believe that Bowling Green Senior High was an important part of the history of this building. During the years the building housed Bowling Green Senior High, there were many wonderful teachers and students that passed through the doors, and we feel it would be a shame to just have the history forgotten as the generations pass. It's taken us a while, but the funds have been raised, and a copy of the proposed drawing has been given to each of you. Per your request, we're returning with the design of the monument and would like to ask for your approval. And we'd also like to request approval for the lettering to be placed on the building, similar to formerly Union High, and have it as formerly Bowling Green Senior High. We want it to match. If approved, we'd like your recommendation on where you'd like us to place the monument so that it's consistent with the other building grounds. The alumni might want to have a small ceremony once this is done, but we haven't discussed that yet. We just wanted to make sure that it was all right with you before we went ahead. So that's it. Do you have any questions?
Let me just ask if the board members have any questions for Ms. Sales.
I guess just to make sure, what we have in our packet is just a monument
Yes.
sketch?
Yes.
And nothing about lettering? Okay.
No.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
All right.
I just
All
want to
right.
make sure I had everything.
And thank you for remembering Round Oak Baptist Church.
You're welcome.
Thank
Okay, at this time, I guess we would need some type of a motion to give them permission to do this. Now, I think we would also include that we would need to work with staff to try and determine the best way to accomplish this lettering. And I mean, I certainly don't have a problem with it. I just want to make sure that we work with staff to get the lettering right and have it blend in nicely with what's already there and that kind of thing. So at this time, if you want to make a motion to grant our request, and along with work from staff to work out the best way to do this.
I'll make a motion to proceed with the request from Bowling Green Senior High Alumni Association to add the lettering and the monument in cooperation with the county staff.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we would proceed with the request from Bowling Green Senior High School and to work together with staff to get this going and to get it completed. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. And again, thank you very much, the high school Bowling Green group. We appreciate your input and thank you. Okay, that takes us to the next agenda item, an update on Belmont Professional Village Project.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm going to look at you guys and these folks too. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay, my name is Bob Alexander. I'm the president and the owner of Meridian Independent Physicians Group. And we're the guys that are opening up the health center that there as you enter into the Belmont area. We're trying to finish it up and get things going there. We're going to have primary care there. We're going to have dental services there. There's also going to be some educational services from some colleges for kind of workforce development type of courses. And being in Meridian, I know a lot of physicians in and around the area, and this fellow here is a guy by the name of Dr. Philip Holskenet. He's an orthopedic surgeon that's with Central Virginia Orthopedic Sports Medicine in Fredericksburg. Dr. Holskenet, would you want to say something to the crowd?
Well, it's always difficult. My wife actually runs the rehab center over at Bowling Green Rehab. And there's a challenge to get the medical care to service areas like this. It's just a little bit farther than people would like to go. I think it's easier to bring Muhammad to the mountain than the mountain to Muhammad, in these situations. And to have a place that's dedicated to healthcare in your region, I think would be really, really beneficial. It allows people who live here to stay here rather than having to travel 25, 30 minutes up the road to get to Fredericksburg. The resources are still there up in Fredericksburg if you need them. The hospital resources are still there. But the day-to-day life that people live and the transportation needs that they have would be a whole lot easier if we just did them locally. So we're looking forward to participating with the community, the businesses, and the people that live here. And we're looking forward to the opportunity.
In Central Virginia Orthopedic Sports Medicine, they have physical therapy services. They have a complete arrangement of things for you to address any orthopedic issues. I noticed a lot of young guys walking out of here in athletic uniforms, and the guys there at Savosum, as it's called, Central Virginia Orthopedic Sports Medicine, they're big into sports, working with the sports trainers and so forth. And we really hope to come in and be a part of the community. And the primary care docs with some walk-in primary care kind of treatment also, they're going to be there pretty much 7 days a week. But then there's going to be some other docs, like maybe the orthopedist that will have some routine visit time in there. And then an OB doc or two is going to be coming into the area. And of course, the dental guys will be there all the time. So we're really looking forward to it. And Mr. Thomas, I remember years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, when we really first started talking about this. And I appreciate your vision and your ability to help us out. And I know Gary's in here somewhere. I think there's Gary over there. But we really look forward to being a part of the community and helping out. And the docs that we've got, the nurse practitioners, everybody's excited. And I've got several of the community members that have actually applying for jobs because we're going to employ people. And we're really looking forward to doing that. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Okay?
Thank you very much. I would just like to add that Germanna Community College, their workforce program, is also a part of this initiative. They will have a satellite office there, and they're planning on classes and even additional classes maybe as there is a demand. So it's not only health. It's also a satellite office for Jimena Community College as well. So we're excited about it, and we appreciate your input. Any questions?
Could I just ask Mr. Alexander, I know we were a little slow doing the shingles, so when is our grand opening scheduled for?
I'm trying to push the builder for that answer myself. I had hoped for September 1. We're really ready to go on that day. But I'll be putting out something, a public announcement that will say it, and we'll have a nice one. And we're going to invite folks to come. Maybe we'll have some Virginia barbecue and bring folks over and really, get to know one another. And I'm already talking to several of the companies like Value City Furniture, the Russell Stover, all of those. You've got a lot of great opportunities here.
Right.
And really what we're trying to do here is really what Mr. Taylor just brought up, is it's for medical, it's for dental, it's also for development of what people can bring to the table, what they need. We're going to have a program that we're talking about that actually gives folks an opportunity to get involved in working in medicine. So it's really going to be something that you ought to be proud of. It'll be something that, some folks ought to write some stories about. Okay?
All right, that's kind of what I'm looking for, because I got some rotator cuff issues.
There you go.
So we'll need to talk. Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
gentlemen. We appreciate your time. That takes us to the VDOT report. We're fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate y'all's time.
You don't have to leave. Stay as long as you like.
I'm going to give you a call tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Okay, I got some things
You
I'm going to.
rotate it, we can do it.
Yeah, but I'm going to do it in the winter.
Good
Mr.
evening.
Nelson, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
Good to
evening,
see you.
Good evening, members of the board. This is my assistant, Kyle Bates, and he'll be giving the report today.
Okay.
Members of the board, thank you for having me. Again, my name is Kyle Bates. I'm the Assistant Residency Administrator in Fredericksburg Residency under Mr. Nelson here. Just real briefly, we'll go over some of the issues that were brought up at the last board meeting. Mr. Black, you had requested an update regarding Lake Landor and the Adopt a Highway program. We have issued that permit. I believe we issued it on July 21st. We are just waiting on the sign, so it has been done. Mr. Seeley, you have requested to review a drainage concern on Edgar Road and Camp Road. Our crews are scheduled to clear the drainage structures the week of September 24th. And also, you had requested an update on the status of replacing the structure on Sparta Road at the Volunteer Fire Department. This structure is not currently on any plan for replacement. Our State Force Bridge crew will be working on structures the following roadways over the next year in Caroline County. Some of those include Sunshine Road, Burris Lane, Gregory Road, and Coolwater Drive.
Can we get a report on all of those when you guys are done? Just on the conditions and what you find or what you don't find on those bridges?
On the ones that we're
Going to inspect.
well, no, these aren't inspection. These ones are being replaced.
Oh, those are being replaced.
Yeah, those are in our 2-year program of bridges that our State Forces crews are going to either be doing a superstructure, a substructure, or a total replacement on. Out of our 14 counties. So our State Forces crew works all 14 counties. And over the next year, we have a total of 4 that will be replaced in Caroline County.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Taylor, you had requested to place additional signage along Route 2 for the 606 closure, and we have done that.
I see that.
They were placed July 7th.
Okay.
And then finally, Mr. Thomas, you have requested to review the signal at New Post. Our staff has reviewed this intersection and have made adjustments, and will continue to monitor it for any issues.
They're not quite satisfactory. I think I mentioned that to Mr. Nelson Memorial Day. Well, the 4th of July, it was horrible, and last weekend it was pretty good too. Whenever there's an incident on 95, they all bail out and try to come up Route 2, and there's a 3 or 4 mile backup at that light.
Right.
So I don't know what you can do to that, but I'm
Take a
just
look
telling
at-
you what I saw.
Absolutely. All right.
Because
Moving
Labor
on.
Day is coming, and it's going to be just as bad.
Right. We will take a look at that. Moving on to construction projects and any preliminary engineering. Route 606 bridge replacement over the Ponai River. The contract has been awarded, $1.8 million to Burley Construction. This project is to be substantially completed prior to January of 16. Route 648 Sunshine, that bridge replacement over the Reedy Creek, State Forces construction, like we were saying before, will begin this in mid-September. This road will be closed to through traffic for approximately 8 weeks. As far as any preliminary engineering, the Route 721 bridge replacement over Beverly Creek. This is a temporary structure that we had installed in April of 15. This project is to be advertised for construction in 2016. And then the last one is Route 722 bridge replacement over the Mattaponi River. This will go to advertisement in December 2015, and construction is estimated to take 4 to 6 months.
That one, you're going to close the bridge with that schedule?
Yes, sir.
Okay, why is that when the board had already asked that you work out something else?
The reason being is we have the funding to do it now, and if we were to wait, it would cost more in the long run if we were not to close it. Approximately $1 million, I believe.
So we went and looked at it. We found money in the 6-year improvement plan this upcoming cycle. So we were faced with 2 options. We delay it and go stage construction, which is going to cost more and we don't have funds to do it now, or we do it now, close the road for 4 to 6 months and be gone. We had a public hearing on it, I think it was a week ago.
It was Monday last week, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't make it. I talked to Mr. Fincham today. He didn't make it. So was there an overwhelming voice from the community that said they want it closed for 6 months?
Well, the one person that showed up, there were 7 people that showed up. The person that did show up said, get in and get out. That was the response that we had at the public hearing. People were there to figure out what was going on, and the one person that did respond on the project said, just get in and get out and get it over with.
Okay, but we've just made, well, we didn't actually make any investments. We got a significant investment for free, which was the natural gas line going down there. And I know Hoover's expanding, and they were looking at some other businesses. So I really don't want to impact the commercial business that we're developing there being closed for 6 months.
Well, I agree. That's why we put incentives in the contract, said 4 to 6 months. So there's incentives in the contract for the contract to finish earlier. But if we delay and let the bridge continue to continue with the condition it is in now, you could have a posted bridge and you can't get commerce across it anyway. The bridge is already posted.
The bridge is posted now as, what, 4 tons or something like that?
No, it's not 4 tons. I think it's posted at 24 tons.
24 tons?
Yeah.
That's a pretty big truck already.
No.
Okay. So you expect me to really believe that 4 to 6 months is 4 to 6 months?
I'm expecting you to believe it because I said it.
Mr. Nelson, I'm going to give only you, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
We're going to put in.
You are the only one VDOT employee that would get the benefit of the doubt because everybody else lied to me.
Well, I'm not.
All right, you're the only one.
We're putting 4 to
So
6 months
I'm
in
going
the
to give you the
contract.
benefit of the doubt.
The contract finishes earlier, he gets money. Contractors like money. So the contractor finishes early, he will get a bonus.
And if he finishes late,
There are penalties.
but that's just financial penalties, he's just late. He can come in 9 months and be late and whatever the money he didn't get, he didn't get.
There's financial penalties, yes.
Only for you.
I appreciate it.
But I'm going to hold you to that 4 to 6 months.
I'm good with that.
Okay. I know where you work.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay. Oh, is that all you had?
I got one more, but
Oh, okay, no, go ahead, go ahead.
the last thing I've got is concerning a through truck restriction. We got a request, I believe it was about 3 months ago, for through trucks on McBryant and Moore's Mill, I believe it was. Currently, we have Dry Bridge Road posted for a through truck restriction. And I think what is happening here is there are trucks that are circumventing our system and are using McBryant and Moore's Mill to get around the through truck restriction. So we'd like to discuss that with county staff in the future. You all willing to potentially install a through truck restriction on both McBryant and Moore's Mill? So
Okay.
that's all I got.
Okay. Just one question. You talked about the 606 bridge, and you said, by January of 2016. Has any construction started there, and if not, when do you think we might see some?
The construction should be starting at the end of this month, beginning of September. We just awarded it this month.
Okay.
So the contract has been awarded. He's starting to mobilize now. I
Okay.
haven't got the official date, but I know he's been issued a notice to proceed to start work. So
Okay.
it should be pretty soon.
Okay.
So
Thank
he's
you.
working?
Yeah.
Deputy Secretary's working, so.
Oh, okay. Right.
I have a question.
Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Nelson, since you're going to close my bridge, I need a stop sign.
Okay.
The Belmont community wants a stop sign at Gallant Fox and Triple Crown. And they've, both the HOA and individual homeowners have expressed their concern to me, especially now in school time. There's a lot of folks kind of going through. Is that a traffic study requirement first, or can we just get a stop sign?
It sounds like this is because there's people speeding, or is it cut through traffic, or?
There's a little of both.
Okay.
There's people speeding, and now it's, now it's school time, so.
Let me look at it and get with traffic engineering, because we may be able to see what we can do regarding that.
Now, can I ask another one, since you've already denied me on a really important thing?
Okay.
A while back, your predecessor or the person before that did a study on Coolwater Drive for sound barrier.
Yeah.
You heard about that?
Mm-hmm.
They did the study before the road was done, and then they said there was no need for the sound barrier. And then they came back again later and said, well, there's no need for it. Would you please investigate that?
Okay.
And see if there's actually a need. If there is a need for a sound barrier there based on traffic, that's a...
It's going to be a very hard sell for the need for a sound wall based on the traffic that goes through that roadway.
But after I make that very hard sell and you buy, then the Commonwealth is going to be responsible for that construction, right?
No.
It's a 50-50?
If you choose to use revenue sharing for it, but the cost, we would only do a sound study if we built a brand new roadway, and it caused us to go through a process with the federal government to do a sound study. And I mean, it doesn't happen very often.
So the Carmel Church Loop Road, that's the road I'm really talking about. That was the road you built?
Yeah, and I have not seen us put any sound walls on any of these low-volume roadways except 95, and that's a high-volume road. It's going to be a very hard sell to get sound walls. If the county or the developer wanted to put up a sound wall, we would be willing to issue a permit if it had to be in the right-of-way, but I can tell you right now, putting up a sound wall on Coolwater Drive is probably not going to happen.
Okay. Well, it's really Carmel Church Circle. Yeah. That's really where it is, between the Visitor Center and Arby's, because that's where all the trucks are turning around through there. And
But I would not think that listen, we can initiate a sound study.
I will talk to you offline and
Okay.
see if my convincing skills are better offline.
Okay, that'll work.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Okay, no,
I just wanted to give you all an update on House Bill 2, the process that we're going through working with county staff. Like I said, we've been working with county staff regarding potential projects for the county to put in for House Bill 2. The applications are due on September the 30th, and resolutions for improvements along corridors of statewide significance would have to be uploaded prior to December 1st. The scores will be released in January of 2016, and there's approximately $1 billion between the two programs. There's approximately $500 million for the high priority projects, which is the statewide bundle, and there's approximately $500 million for the construction district grant program, which I believe Fredericksburg District has about $34 or $35 million in their district grant program. So as of right now, we're working with the county potentially on looking at Route 639 as a candidate project, and are coming up with two alternatives, project that would encompass from 95 all the way to Route 1, and then looking at a smaller scale project, because it's a big ratio depending on the cost that you've got on it too and how it scores. So we're looking at Route 639 as a potential candidate project.
okay. Any questions? Mr. Black, did you?
Yeah, I just have a couple. Have you, number one, have you worked with Lake Landor on the back gate as far as site? I mean, I know they're clear on everything else, the site distance.
As far as I know, that we've reached out to them and gave them our recommendations. Other than that, that's all we've done.
Okay, so that's just a recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. The second issue we had is, the incident that happened today.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm just kind of a little concerned about that that curve, in the road. Is there a way to look back on the number of accidents we've had in that area? Because some of at least it was told to me by at least one resident today that there's been a number of accidents on that curve, whether it's the speed limit needs to be lowered and during the school year I come back that way, and if you're not expecting it or at night, it would be pretty easy to go off the road there. So can we just get the information on that and how many accidents have been there and so forth? Because I think the residents in that area around Anderson Mill are a little concerned.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Nelson, we talked about Route 30 a couple times regarding the speed limit. I am concerned that from the lighted 301 going back towards King William, that's really a residential area up to Courtney's, and the speed limit just appears to be too lenient there. I think we need to study again. I think that's a major issue there.
We can do a study, but I'll let you all know, how the speed studies work. It's based on the speed that the people are traveling on the road. So if we go in there and do a speed study and the people are traveling 60, doesn't mean we're going to raise the speed limit, but we're not going to lower it if people are traveling over the posted speed limit. So in order to get the speed limit lowered, the people would have to be traveling less of a speed than what is posted.
That's not good, Mr. Nelson.
Well, I'm just letting you know.
I need a resolution. I'm really concerned, and I've had a number of complaints about folks zooming up Route 30 heading toward King William and truck traffic, and that's that is a residential area. So,
but it's also a primary roadway too.
I understand, but maybe we could have a gradual increase in speed. It gets to be 55 coming down 30 once you leave the State Fair, and we still have residents there who need ingress egress.
Well, I will get with traffic engineering to see if they have any recommendations, and we can initiate a speed study. That way we know exactly how fast they're going.
And my second issue, Mr. Nelson, is Jericho Road. Over the last few months, there's been a number of crashes on Jericho Road. I don't know I think the speed limit there is also 55. It just appears too fast I'm not even sure that road is up to state standard in terms of width.
Well, here's the thing. If the road is unposted, then it is a 55-mile-per-hour. We can initiate a study on that road and based on the geometry set a speed limit. So that situation is a little bit different.
Okay.
But we can initiate that.
If you could do that, I certainly appreciate it. I think it's definitely an issue that we need to look at. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Akers?
Mr. Nelson, could I ask you to meet me at the entrance to Lake Caroline sometime in the next week or two?
All right. I will reach out to you and see if we can set up a date.
Thank you.
Is that all, Mr. Akers? Yes. Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Nelson, I guess I'm kind of curious, at the summit yesterday, they were talking about revenue sharing may potentially be going away. Have you heard anything about that? Not this year, but in the very near future.
The allocations for revenue sharing are going down every year. So I can't remember what the dollar amount is going to get to by FY20 or FY21, but it is going down to promote people to be utilizing House Bill 2 in the prioritization process. The good thing is if you've already got existing applications, those are priority applications. So if the county decided they wanted to put in additional revenue sharing on 639, they could do that and it would be a priority project to get funded.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Underwood. Sure. If you finish, I'm sorry. Okay.
Mr. Nelson, I had mentioned to Mr. Fincham about the tall grass on Route 30 also as you're coming out onto 30 there at Second Mount Zion Baptist Church. Was that taken care of, Dina?
I'm pretty sure my guys sent that to me and I called them. They told me they got that taken care of last week. So if it hasn't been, I need to double check. But I was told it was taken care of last week.
I'll double check tomorrow, but I hadn't.
Because I know they're down there right now. They're clearing up a whole lot of stuff on Route 30.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, that it? You're welcome. Thanks a lot, Mr. Nelson. As always, we appreciate your efforts.
No problem. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, that takes us to the next agenda item, an update on filming of major motion picture Loving in Caroline. Yes, ma'am. How are you today?
Just fine. Thank you
Good.
very much for allowing us to be here before you. Good evening, members of the board and certainly county senior staff. As we all know, the HBO documentary of the Loving story was very well acclaimed and very well received throughout the country. And through those discussions, not only with the production ownership of the film, but also with Virginia Tourism Corporation, discussions continue to create a full-length film. And we have been very fortunate that through their efforts, this film will now be filmed in Virginia, and more importantly, in several sites in Caroline County and Bowling Green, if we have your approval this evening. The film will also be filmed in Richmond, of course, and in D.C. at the U.S. Supreme Court building. We have some surrounding counties that also have a couple of sites, that are being considered. And we have the historic courthouse complex, as well as the Sidney E. King Art Center, the outside of the jail. They're located on Main Street as well. We have had contact with Judge Kelly, and she has expressed her approval if we can meet some conditions regarding some security. She's contacted the Sheriff's Department and indicated her willingness to participate, as well as the County Administration's office. I'd like to also thank Ray Campbell. Ray Campbell has been very instrumental in showing around the film crew and providing us with all kinds of documentation and his personal histories. Not only, let's see if I get this right, his uncle was actually clerk of the court when the first case came before in Caroline County, and then his father was there when the second time that the case came back. And now here we have Ray as he's exiting, unfortunately. But anyway, he is leaving us, and now the motion picture is being made here. So he has quite been involved with everything going on with that. As we have been working with the film crew for a while now, we have recently had some meetings with the folks that will be most affected by this actual request. And certainly we've had a conversation not only with the Art Center, the Historical Society, the Sheriff's Department, officials from the Building Department, and I've also had conversations with Public Works Superintendent about what could possibly be taking place in the building. We are not expecting anything to take place in the courthouse, but within the Sidney King's Art Center, we are expecting for the paintings in the affected area to be moved and stored. There will be some temporary change in color of the wall color that will be in there, and displays and gift shop items moved and all of those things. We have walked through the Historical Society and the Bowling Green Arts Commission with all those details of things that could possibly happen. We know that most of the filming will be in the day. There will be some only, also in the dark hours. Sheriff's Department is, as I said, in that loop. The police chief from Bowling Green will be in the loop very soon now that there's a little more scheduling that has been defined by the group. But I can certainly indicate that everyone is very enthusiastic and very much participating in the opportunity to not only tell this story, but also it will provide some injection monetarily, not only to the nonprofits, but to the community as a whole. Lunches and shopping and all those kinds of things will be taking place when the crew is here. We do anticipate that the crew would like to move to the area about the mid part of September. Filming will be done by the 9th of October, give or take a day or two, so it will be a very tight, precise kind of schedule, that will be taking place also. I guess probably before we entertain any kind of questions, I would like to introduce to you Colleen Gibbons. Colleen is the location director for the film and is very well known throughout the industry, and I could give you a whole list of all the things that she's participated with, but she's told me not to mention Castaway or not to mention the Lincoln Project, the Lincoln film that was just done in Richmond, and other kinds of things. But we're very fortunate to have this level of expertise honchoing this project as we go through. So, Colleen, be ready for some questions.
Well, thank you both for being here. As I understand it, what you're really asking for is permission to proceed along the lines that you are going. Correct. And my understanding is it's no financial impact to the county, and there does not seem to be any issue that the county has regarding this. So I would think that permission would be granted if I'm allowed to presume that. But there may be some questions that board members have, and if you do have questions, I would give you an opportunity. Mr. Thomas, do you have
No, I was just going to make it in the form of a motion since I actually went to church with Mrs. Loving. I appreciate that honor, so I move that the county go forward with its support of the Loving movie.
And I'd like to second that since my district.
been moved and properly second that we would give the filming agency as well as the tourism department permission to proceed along the lines with the development of the film. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
May I say thank you to the board for
Yes, ma'am.
your patience with our process and your generosity to allow us to be a member of your community for the next couple of months. You're going to see a lot of us around, and we're going to take good care of you. I live in Virginia, so this is a story that's very close to my heart, and it's an important time for, I think, this story to be told. And we're very excited to be here. We're meeting kin of Lovings and Jeters and everybody in Brooks people, and we've had a very warm welcome so far, and we're very excited to be able to tell this story in the place where it took place. So it's a big deal for us. So thank you very much.
And it is, too, a big deal for us as well. It is certainly an intricate part of Caroline's history. The Lovins, as you know, were here in Caroline. They still have relatives who still reside here.
Whom we've been speaking with. Yeah.
Right. So again, we thank you for all your input, and whatever we need to do to assist, we'll do what we can.
Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that takes us to a report from the Department of Parks and Recreation. Mr. Howard, I believe you are here for that.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Howard.
Good to see you all again. It's good for us all to be here. And tonight, I just want to just give you a brief update on some of the recreation activities and leisure services that have been going on in the county. I'm basically going to reflect back over the last 3 months and give you an overview of what's been happening. I just want you to know that as we have gone about providing services, our concern has definitely been to look at what is being offered and make sure that there's diversity within it. Over the last 3 months, I've seen such things take place. I've seen from a sports standpoint, youth sports standpoint, I've seen our summer youth basketball program take place. That program now has been going on for maybe 4 or 5 years, somewhere around that time. We have seen some consistency in terms of the numbers, and that program is housed at the community center. We initiated over the last 2 years, I would say, our girls volleyball program. We have seen an increase in numbers in that program, and we've really seen not only the increase in numbers, but we also have seen increase in the talents and the skills of the players. We've seen this past season, which just concluded, we have at least 32 girls between the ages of 9 and 15, and we really believe that they're coming out definitely going to play a vital role in the success of our school youth volleyball program, and hopefully one day that the middle school will offer that program and reap the benefits from that. Youth football tipped off in July. That has also maintained consistency. We have about 70 kids in that program. Those kids are ranging from ages 6 to 13 right now. Their opening day is this Saturday coming. We will be down in Essex County competing down there, and we have a total of 3 teams, 1 in each division. So Of course, we could use a little more players, but this year, especially on our older level, which we call our varsity level, we have 18 kids now in that program, and that's going to be tough to try to carry out the season with 18 players, especially if injuries occur. But right now, all the teams are practicing at the rec park. In terms of the adult programs, we have adult softball, in which Mr. Black is currently participating in as well. There are 9 teams, and since we had the little adverse situation, that it has remained the same, consistent in terms of the numbers. So we have 9 teams in that league. They will be concluding this month as well. And we have put together a senior citizen program over in the Lady Smith area over at the C.T. Smith building right now that is growing. The ones that are currently participating, that program is, they're excited about it. We're trying to offer some a variation of activities within that program, such as taking them on trips and other, giving them other opportunities as well to venture out. The summer camp program for kids, that program concluded in the second week of July. It was impacted somewhat by the early closing of schools this year, in which now I'm going to have to go back and look at and see what we're going to do, because we still had about a month to go between that time and school reopening, when that program was put together, it was taking some of the burden off the parents. But when school closed early, then that caused a bigger gap there that we have to now contend with. And so that's where we're at right now. We had 50 kids, and that's what we've been averaging the last 3, 4, 5 years, about 50, anywhere from 50 to 60, 65 kids. We were right at around 50, 52 kids this year. Those who were in the program, they enjoyed it. They maintained the consistency in the numbers, and so the parents that are taking advantage of the services are definitely enjoying it. We're seeing a gradual increase in those who need support to enter into the program, and so we're kind of seeing an increase in that area. Yes, we do get some support or some help from social services. They help out in somewhat, and some of their clients come to us, and also so they're trying to help a little bit with the funding aspect of it. But we are seeing a gradual increase in that area as well. And so next year, as I alluded to earlier, we're definitely going to we're probably going to take more funding to see that program to perhaps maybe we may need to increase it from 7 weeks and go back to 8 or 9 weeks and try to draw some of the burden off. And that's the reason why the program was implemented from the beginning. The other things I just want to share with you, the tennis courts at the over at the recreational park, that has become a concern. I've talked to the athletic director at the school, and he and I had a visitation at the tennis court, and we're starting to experience some cracks again in the tennis court. And I know last time those courts were done, I believe it was back in the early 90s, I believe, somewhere around that time, and now those cracks are starting to reoccur, so there may need to be a little facelift there with the tennis courts. And the concern is whether or not the courts be usable for the school program. So that is starting to become a concern. And finally, I just want to share with you, over in Ladysmith, we are increasing in the number of services that's being housed out of the C.T. Smith building, or the Diversified Ladies Learning Center, whatever we want to call it today. But the fact is, it is definitely generating a lot more interest. I'm still meeting folks that's calling about somehow trying to use that building. So definitely that is going to be a concern. We're housing multiple programs out of that facility as well as some of the others that is over there in addition. So trying to maintain that facility, trying to coordinate things with the schools and make sure they're getting the proper care and custodial services and other things as well. So those are some of the concerns with that as we continue to grow over there. So
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Board members have questions. I see Mr. Black. Mr. Black, I saw your hand first.
I just have one. I just want to thank you for the meeting that we had earlier in the summer. You had talked about at that meeting the cleanliness of that CT. I mean, I know there's obviously some other issues that involve, the repairs and so forth, but as the schools also, I think, kind of addressed that, or they were trying to address that earlier in the summer. Has that improved? I mean, as far as...
Yes, it has, somewhat. It's still, one day I went over there and I saw the cans running over in the gymnasium area and so forth, but I reported that to their staff as well. So they're not necessarily on top of it the way they probably should, but when it's reported, they normally come in and take care of it. So that's what we have. So.
Okay. Thank you. And one more thing. The other thing is when you guys started the Facebook page for the letting people know, that I thought that was a good idea. I just think that we need to get it out. I mean, it's very convenient. It was very convenient for when we had rainouts. If you're over in the Ladysmith area, not having to travel over to the other side of the county if your game is going to get rained out and in advance. So that was a big help to the people. So I do appreciate that. If you guys could just get the word out more, I mean, I think that's very helpful to the citizens about what the programs are. I think that would be a huge bonus to you guys.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I would like to say one additional thing. In related to the park facilities, outdoor recreation is becoming very popular here in Caroline. We are getting an increase in reservations, which also not only affects my department, but it also puts a burden on Public Works because they have to maintain those parks. And that is something that's starting to become an issue. The recreational park is the park right now that's getting primarily the increase. Low Massey Park is definitely growing in that. Farmers Park is not getting as much participation, but it's only because of the lack of outdoor public restroom facilities. They loved it, Farmers Park, but the concern is definitely because it does not have, the outdoor restroom facilities. But it is constantly growing and increasing, and it's definitely bringing a demand on both ways. So.
Okay. Mr. Cully, I believe it had a...
I just wanted to add, Mr. Black, we also created a Twitter account so that, you can, and we actually hit both accounts with one account called Hootsuite. So we update both Facebook and Twitter with those announcements. So a lot of people don't use Facebook but follow Twitter. So we're trying to hit the two major social media things, and we may create some other accounts later on for those things to try to get as much information about Parks and Rec, what they've got, the programs they've got, and the cancellations and that type of thing as well. So we're trying to push that information as much as we can.
Yeah, that would be, I just think that would be very helpful because when it first came out, there was about 135 people I noticed signed up for it right away. It seems to have remained at about 135, so I know that softball is over now, but some of your other programs as well, because you'll have different people that are participating in the different sports. It would just be, when people found out about it, it was instantaneous. The numbers went up very, very drastically, very quickly, and it seems to have plateaued off. So as you get into some of your other programs in the fall and so forth, I think that would be very, very helpful to the citizens so they can see what's going on. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, just two. Mr. Howard, thank you for your report. Two pieces that I want to discuss briefly. We're talking about the marketing and advertising piece of the Park and Recreation Department. I heard you mention Twitter and the online pieces. What else are we doing to try to involve our youth in the different programs within the Park and Recreation Department?
I have been doing outreach, I've been done some outreach. I'm reaching out to areas in Caroline's Pines. We also use, you may have seen some banners around the county that we're putting up as well to try to draw, and we put them at the disposal sites, trash disposal sites. We know that traffic goes those places. We set them up at the library down in Don. We set them out here and various other places up in Upper Caroline and so forth. So those are the ways right now that we're currently going about.
Okay. And my second concern, I read the report, and you mentioned several increases in different programs. If we could get some historical data to take a look, I know you said there were increases a number of times in different programs, but nothing specific in terms of percentages, participation, which areas, so forth. If you could get us some historical data, maybe come back in a month, maybe, and give us some historical data on participation, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas and then Mr. Akers, if it's okay.
Okay, mine's just one quick one. Do you have access to school buses during your camps, the summer camp?
We have one that's our bus out there, and we also get access. Yes, the school works with us well on that.
So you could be able, if you had kids in the camp, you could transport 20 or 30 of them to a given location?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll talk some more. All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Akers.
Darnell, you indicated that the new programs being put in place over in Ladysmith area at Bill C.T. Smith High School. What are some of the programs that you started new over there? And I guess my other concern is Lake Caroline, for instance. I know the Lake Caroline, I know Ladysmith Village, and I'm sure Lake Landau, and I'm sure the Caroline Pines. They have their own intranet. They have their own e-blast they send out to people. It may be that not everybody is on Twitter, not everybody is on Facebook, but I know that everybody can get that e-blast that live in those neighborhoods. So it may be that if you could ask the executive manager at Lake Caroline, and her name is Ellen Clark.
Ellen Clark, okay.
You could ask the lady that in Ladysmith Village, and her name is Katie Lux, and Katie they can e-blast to their respective neighborhoods what you send them, and I think they need to know what is being offered. Tell me what's being offered over there. That's new.
Right.
I know we've had basketball. I know we've had soccer practice, and I know we've had some other things over there, karate classes, things of that nature. But that's been some time.
Yeah, we've had piano lessons.
I'm sorry.
We have piano lessons.
Oh, piano. Okay.
We've had, of course, it just started the senior citizen club over there.
Good.
That's
Good.
second and fourth Wednesdays over there in the mornings, 10 to noon. We have, let me see, other programs over there.
You send me an email on it as to
Sure,
what's
absolutely.
being provided.
Okay.
But if you would, contact those people in those two neighborhoods that are in my district, and ask them, would they be willing to send out information that you provide them on a regular basis as to the schedules and things of that nature of the various programs.
Okay.
I think that may help us as well. And I think Pilton has a homeowners association with them, Mr. Cully?
Tricor still has that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Seeley, were you
Yeah.
finished, Mr. Akers?
I'm through, thank you.
Mr. Seeley?
I guess this is for Mr. Cully. Where are we in terms of tree cutting, the timbering over there on the poorhouse track, and the trail there? Because, Mr. Schiebel, because I think that will help you also, because it will add yet another opportunity over in the same vicinity of the park in terms of what could be used and what the county owns.
One of the things we plan on doing is bringing you a list of priorities once we sell the timber and have the revenue from that to fix things like the tennis court. So we are aware of these issues that he has with repairs. We just don't have the funds.
That
so
was my next
We're going to
question
bring you
is-
a list. Here's how much money, here, man, and pick and choose what you want to fix.
Because I know fixing the tennis courts, if we wait too long, you end up replacing them. If you do something early, you can actually fix them. And, Mr. Schiebel?
Yes, in May, the Board of Supervisors authorized a contract with a forester to come in and to assist us in selling the timber. They have 12 months to be able to sell that timber. They have currently gone through and marked all the timber that's going to be saved. They've marked both sides of the tree stump, so as they're being cut, they can tell whether a tree has been removed that shouldn't have been. They're hoping next month to be able to do sealed bids. They're actually going to break it into 3 different bids. They're going to bid the first piece out. If they've got a really good price, then they're going to negotiate the next 2 pieces with the highest bidder. Once that's done, we'll come back to the Board of Supervisors that'll have to authorize the sale of that timber at that time, and we'll know what the value is of that actual timber. They do have, if they do not meet their estimate of what they think the estimated value is, then they have an additional 6 months to try to sell it for the value that they've estimated that at. In that, also, we've talked with them about clearing some trails through there
Right.
to assist them for doing cross-country, as well as the school bus garage has asked that we clear a 20-foot path around the outside of their fence. They keep having some of the pine trees and stuff falling on top of the fences and damaging fence. So we're also doing that as part of this.
Okay, that's what I was, because it will add yet another component to the parks once that's complete. And I think, will they be able to ride bikes? I mean, we're going to have to talk about what we really want on there, because once you have open trails, you're open to a number of actual things showing up. So I guess I'm just giving everybody a heads up. We need to think about, what do we want on there? Do we want bikes, mountain bikes? Do we want it to be walking only? I don't know. I guess we need to start looking rather than be under the gun, but something to think about.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Just one more before you go. Our next appointment deals with Recreation Advisory and the committees, and I believe you did put out a list of persons that had shown interest, and so we were to, I guess, choose, unless we had an appointment, unless a board member has an appointment, that list could certainly assist us in making those appointments. And as I understand it, it's time to do that now. Did you want to say anything about that, Mr. Howard, or did board members have? That's our next agenda item. But since Mr. Howard was here, I didn't know if you had some questions, regarding the advisory committee, or if you have persons that you would like to appoint at this time. Mr. Thomas, do you?
We already made our appointment.
Okay, I'm sorry. I believe it did say that. Okay. Okay. Did you want to make one at this time, or? Okay, Mr. Akers?
No, not this time.
Okay, Mr. Seeley?
I'll also wait. I have a name, but I haven't talked back with her again. So.
Okay. All right. I would like to appoint Mr. Jay Garnett to represent the Port Royal District. If I could get one of the board members to.
So move.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Akers, a second by Mr. Thomas, said Mr. Jay Garnett would be the Port Royal representative on the Recreation Advisory Committee, and other board members will take care of that perhaps at the next meeting, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Howard. We appreciate you.
We didn't vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's been moved in. I thought I said that. It's been moved and properly second that we would appoint Mr. Jay Garnett to represent the Port Royal District. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank
Mr.
you.
Taylor, Mr. Howard.
Just one more question, Mr. Howard. Mr. Black?
Sorry. Just picking back on what Mr. Akers said, can you actually, just for the whole county, anywhere there's, like, I know Caroline Pines, I believe, has an HOA, anywhere where there's a contact point with an HOA, like Lake Landor and so forth, if you could get those out in email blast to anyone in the county, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does Carolina Alert work with that? They're on Carolina Alert already?
Okay. All right. That takes us to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr. Akers, if you have a
I do, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to appoint Mr. David Rababi to this. So I'd like to, this is one of those deals where we send it to the judge and the judge does the appointing, but I would like to recommend that we send to the judge the name of Mr. David Rababi.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved and probably second that we would send Mr. Again, his name?
David Rababi.
David Rababi to the court to represent the Madison District on the Board of Zoning Appeals. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, that takes us to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any board member would like to see pulled?
Mr. Chairman, Item D.
Okay, item D, proposed amendments to fiscal 14-15 budget. Are there any other agenda items?
I just have a question on item E. I don't have to pull it, I just have a question on it. If you
Okay,
don't mind.
if you want to go ahead and ask.
As far as the trees, are we going to stump grind them down as well? We are, so the bids will include the stump grinding? Yes, okay, that's all I need.
One follow-up. I think we need to talk to the judge about actually planting some new ones, because I looked at those trees when I saw because I noticed the dead ones last Friday night as well. And maybe it's time to have the judge and some folks look at where some new trees might want to go, because it's not going to be long before there's others. And if we plant it and start looking at it, we could actually get some trees and figure out what kind need to go in there and that kind of stuff.
Okay,
We're just removing the diseased
all right,
one in the front.
but
The diseased too.
right. Okay, so we could do that, but
Right, I
that doesn't.
understand.
Okay, all right. If there are no more questions, we could have a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, E, F, G, H, and I.
Mr. Chairman, we added J as the
Oh,
resolution roundup.
and J, right.
So moved.
Second.
The moved and properly second that the consent agenda would be approved, A, B, C, E, F, G, H, I, and J as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. And all opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, and then the question regarding fiscal year 14-15 budget?
It was on, actually, there's a sentence in here that I just want to have explained. It says, the YMCA final expenditures, the radio system, and the 3 school projects were funded by bond funds received in prior years. So the YMCA is on a bond fund?
That's correct. That was borrowed, I think you borrowed $8 million, and some ambulance money as well, but for the school, Bowling Green School and the YMCA, $5 million was all in a 5-year bond. And part of the school money has then been replaced by the BPSA type of funding of about $1 million. But yeah, it's bond money received years ago.
So did we actually pay back $1 million of the bond fund when that went from the VRS schedule? Did $1 million come off of the bond for the school? I mean, if we replaced it, did it come off?
We don't know that.
You remember 2 years ago, we did 2 bond issues, one for $1.4 million and one for a little over $1 million. They were both QSABs, Virginia Public System, and we immediately took the $1 million and applied it against the $3 million that was on the 2011 grant, which is for the school and the YMCA. Where everything that we show now, both these are shown separately. So in my schedules for the schools, the schedules for the county, there's $2 million owed on the school from the one bond, another $1.4 million, another $8 million, up to $10.5 million. And I think there's 3 different issues involved for the Bowling Green School. And then the $5 million for the YMCA is separate.
So it is a separate...
We show it separately. It's one bond, but we show it separately for accounting purposes.
Okay. I just didn't realize that we were calling that a bond.
It's a 5-year bond anticipation note.
Okay.
Which does come up in another year that we have to do something with it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to approve consent agenda item D?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second that we approve agenda item D as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. That takes us to the closed session. We are a little bit behind, but we need to break now to go into closed session. Okay. We can have a motion for closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board convening closed meeting pursuant to the prospective business exemption under 2.2-377A5 of the Code of Virginia to discuss the prospective business considering a location in Carmel Church area of Caroline County where no previous announcement has been made.
Is there a second? It's been moved and properly second that we would go into closed session under those appropriate areas just mentioned. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We have a motion to come out of executive session. Is
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
there a second?
Second.
It's moved and properly second that we would come out of executive session. Also need board members to certify that we only discuss those things that are, that we went into to discuss under those particular specific conditions. Mr. Thomas, do you certify?
I so certify, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Black?
I so certify, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Chairman, I so certify.
Mr. Akers?
I so certify, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Chairman, I so certify.
And I so certify as well. That takes us to the public comment section of our meeting. I do apologize, we are running a little bit behind schedule, but this is the public comment section of the meeting. It is the time at which citizens can approach the board if you have an issue or a concern, as long as it is not an agenda item or a public hearing. So at this time, I would open the board meeting for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the board at this time? Okay, if you are here for the public hearing, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I gotcha. Amy Olberg, Madison District, co-market manager for the Route 639 Farmers Market. I want to, this is public comments. I'm commenting on it. I just want to thank.
But you, okay, hold on a minute.
Okay.
That is a public hearing.
You'll be able to do it during the public
Okay.
hearing. Yeah,
Okay.
you'll be able to do it during the public hearing, okay?
Thank you. I'll return in a moment.
You'll get a chance to do that. Okay. Is there anyone here who would like to speak regarding any issue that is not a public hearing or not on the board agenda? Again, is there anyone who would like to approach the board on any item that is not a public hearing and not on the agenda? State your name, please.
Karen Lambert. I'm hoping I'm at the right spot. It's a continued matter in the old business, but it's not a hearing, so is it now I talk?
Okay, you may talk now. That's not an agenda item and it's not a public hearing.
All right. Karen Lambert, Reedy Church District. I just wanted to thank Mr. Underwood, Mike and Planning and Zoning, the Meadow Event Park and Tourism, as you did for having the meeting for the neighbors of the Meadow Event Park. I think there was a lot accomplished there, and I hope we can keep the communication open to continue the discussion so that we all can live in harmony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lambert. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding any matter at this time? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding any matter, again, that's not a public hearing or not on the agenda? Seeing no one with the intention to speak, at this time, I will close the public comment section of the meeting. That takes us to public hearings. We have a public hearing on Text Amendment 01-2015, Text Amendment 02-2015, Text Amendment 03-2015, and Text Amendment 04-2015. We will vote on them separately, but we will have the public hearing on all four items at one time. Okay? Mr. Benjamin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, if you will recall, you had your first reading on these text amendments at your previous board meeting. The genesis of these text amendments is the Route 639 Farmers Market, and we've discussed this previously. They have a situation where the current ordinance limits the number of days and weeks that they can hold the farmers market during the summer. As part of that process, we had to actually go in and clean up some of the definitions in the ordinance some other sections in the ordinance and actually add seasonal events in the B1 and planned mixed-use development districts, because we've had similar events like that in those districts before. So we felt that it was appropriate to take their request, clean up the ordinance to allow for the use they want, but allow those same uses where we have similar requests for uses in those districts as well. And in a nutshell, that's what the 4 text amendments would do tonight. It would clean up the definitions, it would expand, increase the number of days and weeks a year in which these events could be held, and it would add it to 2 additional zoning districts, the B1 and the planned mixed-use development districts. With that, I'll address any questions that the board may have.
Okay, do board members have questions prior to the opening of the public hearing? Okay, seeing no one with questions, I will open the public hearing for text amendment 01-2015, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Caroline County by amending Article 2, Section 2, definitions to 1, repeal the definition for temporary uses, and 2, add a definition for seasonal events. Also for text amendment 02-2015, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Caroline County by repealing Article 4, rural preservation, Section 3C, turkey shoots or other temporary uses, and adding Sections 3C, yard sales, and Section 3D, seasonal events. The purpose of this amendment is to add yard sales and seasonal events as a permitted temporary use to include guidelines for duration and number of events. Text Amendment 3-2015, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Caroline County by amending Article 9, business, to add paragraph 28, seasonal events. The purpose of this amendment is to add seasonal events as a permitted temporary use to include guidelines for duration and number of events. And finally, text amendment 04-2015, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Caroline County by amending Article 9, Division 3, Planned Mixed-Use Development, Section 2-1, to add paragraph L, seasonal events. The purpose of this amendment is to add seasonal events as a permitted temporary use to include guidelines for duration and number of events. Are there persons who would like to speak regarding any of these or all of these text amendments? You may come forward at this time.
Sorry for coming up beforehand.
That's okay.
Amy Olberg, Madison District, co-manager of the Route 639 Farmers Market. And to bring this tonight, I want to thank Mike Fincham, who thought outside of the box and helped us get it started last week. It's been a huge impact to the community in the Madison District, but we've also reached across the county, and there's many Bowling Green vendors who come over and participate and even shop. So thank you. Thank you to Mr. Seeley. I brought it to you as a beekeeper, begging to be able to sell honey longer than 14 weeks, and you understood my plight and helped rewrite the wording. So thank you. I think it's a good testament to reaching out across the county, across the aisle, to different people to come together for the common good of the county. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding either of these text amendments? Come forth at this time.
Hi, Tammy Anderson, Western Caroline. I am a co-manager with Amy, and I'm not as eloquent as she is. So ditto on everything that she did mention. I appreciate the consideration in this matter.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak regarding these text amendments?
Hi, I'm Claire DeSantis. I am an artisan vendor at the market, and I also represent Miss Allison. I'd like to thank you all for your work in this matter. I do support this wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding these text amendments? Again, is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding these text amendments? Finally, is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding these text amendments? Seeing no one else with the desire to speak, I will close the public hearing at this time and ask board members If you have questions or concerns for Mr. Fincham, any questions? If not, we can entertain a motion to...
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry.
No, I don't have any questions. I was going to make a motion because I think that, if anything, they do a service for the people of the county, as well as, the vendors selling their produce and things that they provide. It also provides a service to the people that go there and purchase, the ones of us that don't want to get out and work gardens and raise the produce. And so I appreciate you all for what you do with the farmers market, and you've done a great job with it. So I appreciate it a great deal. I'd like to make a motion to approve text 01-2015.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we would approve text amendment 01-2015 as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve text 02-2015.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve text amendment 02-2015 as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, text 03-2015, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we would approve text amendment 03-2015 as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries as presented. And text amendment 04.
I'd like to make a motion to approve text amendment 04-2015.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve text amendment 04-2015 as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. That takes us to unfinished business. Agenda item number 5 is the continued discussion of the increased liability option for VACORP cyber risk policy. Okay, if you would come forward, sir. Okay, Mr. Carey.
Yeah, good evening. It's good to see all of you again. I understand you have some questions. Cyber liability, I'm sure you've seen it a lot in the news about different types of events that are occurring with data intrusion, stealing of data, different types of uses of data, and so forth. We've been monitoring this for a couple of years now. 2 years ago, we included some base coverage in your document at no additional charge. So you've had coverage for this for a couple of years. There's two parts to the coverage. There's third-party liability, and the third-party liability covers you for damages that may occur as a result of somebody's data being stolen. It covers you if any copyrighted or other types of information shows up on your website without approval or getting the proper documentation. It covers you for any regulatory defense or legal expenses that would result from, say, a state or a federal type of regulatory action. And then the other part of the coverage is first-party coverages that deal with if you have to bring in a forensic computer specialist to try to figure out what's going on with your systems after an event, if you need to bring in public relations type information to get your information out on this to the public. It deals with required notification expenses if you have a breach. And understand that a breach could be something as simple as somebody losing a laptop that doesn't have encrypted data on it. And even if you can't identify whether the computer's ever been turned on by somebody else, that's considered a breach, and you need to send out certain notifications. You can ask Accomack County about that one. That's happened to them. So we included a lot of base coverage. So we put in a $500,000 limit for the third-party liability, and we put in a $75,000 limit for the notifications and crisis management and those types of things. And then we capped the amount of coverage for the entire pool for the year for $5 million. So essentially we could handle about 10 events a year where we don't need to collect any additional funds to provide that coverage to all of the members at large. This past year, we started looking into the availability of providing individual coverage to localities that were interested in having their own coverage and not relying on this kind of group policy for the entire group. So you would be able to get some increased liability coverage and some increased notification, crisis management types of expenses and things like that. I will tell you that most of the large localities have started purchasing this. We have done some work with Fairfax County on this issue. They are buying some additional coverage. Stafford County is buying some additional coverage. A lot of the larger localities, and there's a lot of incidences against schools and having that data stolen, so a lot of schools have started purchasing this coverage. I'm going to go at this two different ways with you to give you my opinions on this. My opinions on this are you probably have a lot of sovereign immunity for the third-party liability. But my only hesitation on that issue is there's no case law on this stuff. There's no case law. So if you're asking me whether you have sovereign immunity or not, my gut tells me, I've been doing this for 22 years in Virginia, and my gut tells me that you would be held to a gross negligence standard and that it would be difficult for somebody to pursue this against you on the third-party side. My brain tells me I have no specific case to reference or other types of information to tell you whether or not that's going to happen or not. When you look at insurance, you buy insurance based off of what could happen. You don't buy it based off the events of the past. The one side of me would say caution dictates maybe buying a little extra coverage isn't the worst thing in the world. I have no evidence to suggest that this is something that's of an absolute urgent nature for local governments to be doing. We were asked to do it by certain members. We put this program together. We think it's good. The part that we really felt like we benefited from and that you'll benefit from regardless of whether you buy it or not is when we put this program together, we actually gained access to vendors on claims handling, crisis management, legal, public relations, all of those types of things that our staff can't really handle on their own. We've handled one notification claim in 22 years. If we were to get a real kind of event where there was real material data stolen, my staff wouldn't be able to handle that. So gaining access to these specialty vendors by offering this product was something that was really attractive for us. So you'll benefit from that whether you purchase additional coverage or not. I wish I had more to offer on it. I really have one example so far that's really a government type, kind of liability example. The one thing that we are watching right now is there is a federal case in Louisiana that we've been watching where they have kind of lowered the bar for people being able to prove that they have damages. That's making it a little bit easier for, if somebody steals my data today, right now I have to prove that I have damages, and I really would be difficult for me to prove I have damages, right? My credit card would reimburse me for that. What are my actual damages? It would be difficult for me to prove that. Apparently there's a case going on right now that's getting ready to go to a federal appeals court on that, but we're watching that to see if it's going to be easier for people to get access. So we're paying attention to it. This is kind of new out there for us, but we feel like it's our responsibility to continue to try to keep everybody aware of what's going on and make things available from a coverage and service perspective that we think our members could benefit from now or at some point in the future. So we'll keep your staff advised on this as we continue to move forward. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, I just said a couple, I don't know if other board members do, I'm sure they may. But the sovereign immunity, my understanding, and you did allude to that somewhat, but there is no case out there right now that would make us think that sovereign immunity would not protect us in such a case if we had an issue beyond the coverage that we already have.
As of right now, I'm not aware of any third-party liability case that has been made against any local government in Virginia. And since we cover 400 local governments, counties, schools, and various authorities, I'm certain that if there was one, I would know about it. So to my knowledge right now, we've only handled a required breach notification, and I don't have any knowledge that anything has occurred in this state other than that.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about the server level firewall that we have in place now? My understanding is that protects us against, to some degree, from breaches and other.
Well, you know, I'd have to look at how you're handling that. I don't know much. I'm not an IT guy. I do know that there are certain types of mandatory or really not mandatory, but recommended levels of protection that you would put on your servers to protect outsiders from coming in. Right. You know, one of the problems that we see right now on the IT side is if you're using any third-party vendors for any of this, typically third-party IT contracts limit the liability to the value of a contract, value of the contract. So if you have a internal person and have some outside contracts for people to provide assistance to them, you probably aren't going to be able to go to them if a claim occurs, and if you are able to go to them, you're only going to be able to go to them probably on a limited basis. I'd have to see if you have any third-party vendor contracts, what they say, but in all likelihood, you're only going to be able to go after them up to the value of what the contract is. That's typically how those are worded. So that's really one of the problems that we see with how that's handled right now.
Okay, board members have other questions. Mr. Thomas?
And I guess back to yours, Mr. Taylor, or you said our server firewall, it does as much protection as a screen door. It's going to keep out gnats, flies, but anything big is going to walk right through it. So that's another issue. But Chris, my question was, and we had some discussion, I don't know if you saw our discussion from our last meeting that's in our packet. If a hacker breaks into our server, grabs all of our personal data, they now have my address, date of birth, social security number, that's enough to be me. So they now go out and open up all sorts of bills and whatever in my name, which they probably couldn't do. But if that happens, now I can't sue the county based on what you just said because the county's going to have sovereign immunity.
We believe that to be the case. We're not certain, but we believe that to be the case.
That's a thought. Now, I'm going to then have to prove I have damages in order to be reimbursed from this $500,000 policy that we have, right? That's the way it works?
You wouldn't necessarily have to. You would have to prove damages to be compensated. The county is going to be obligated when they find out that information is stolen to notify everybody that they believe information was stolen. So you're going to bear that expense. Right. So we're going to send you a letter and tell you your data was stolen. And then if you see anything, we're probably going to be required to monitor your credit card activity or your credit report. We're probably, now that's not really damages. Damages would be you spending a bunch of time and spending money and pain and suffering and lost wages and other things that occur for you to be able to get your identity back or to recover whatever needs to be recovered or so on and so forth. So the damages are the above and beyond costs.
Right, and there's some cases where that has taken years for a person to repair their credit.
Correct.
And a lot of other things, because once you get stopped, you could have a warrant out for you. If I get stopped for speeding, I've got a warrant out for me because I didn't pay whatever bill before. That's going to be covered I mean,
The cost,
Scott's going to take, or the sheriff's there now, the sheriff stopped me for speeding. He sees that I'm not really the person, or there's some difference in my identity, whatever, due to that hack. So now I'm going to visit the sheriff's facility for a while. You're going to be responsible for that because I'm going to call my lawyer, right?
theoretically, I would only be responsible for any direct first-party costs from that. The liability for you having to spend a night or two in jail or anything like that, that's where we think there might be some sovereign immunity unless there is any gross negligence.
Okay, let me repeat that to see if it sounds the same when I say it. The county gets hacked.
Correct.
I suffer, or anybody that works for the county suffers some issue with their identity being lost. Maybe it's law enforcement, maybe they were going to buy a new car and now they can't get it. And you're saying that you believe that person would have no recourse because the county has sovereign immunity?
I believe the only recourse would be any direct cost related to monitoring your credit report or any direct costs of things that you actually had to do to recover your identity would be covered on that first party, that $75,000 limit.
Right.
I believe that would be covered, but I think anything that you would sue for, like, let me use an automobile claim is easy. I hit you with my car, and you have $1,000 in medical bills.
Right.
Well, I don't have sovereign immunity for that, so you're going to be able to sue me for damages, which is pain and suffering, loss of consortium, various things like that. So even though you only had $1,000 in medical bills, I might have to pay you $4,000 or $5,000 to settle your claim for the other pain and suffering the otherwise. What I'm saying on this is if the sovereign immunity applies, I'm only giving you the $1,000. You're not going to be able to get the $4,000. You're only going to be able to get the $1,000. So if your costs associated are $1,000, you're going to get $1,000. But if you try to sue me for an extra $5,000 for all your pain and suffering and inconvenience and nuisance and all of that, we don't think you're going to get that. We just think you'll get the $1,000, and we'll pay the $1,000. But if you get sued for it, this policy will defend the county.
But I mean, what we're talking about really is we're talking about county employees or people that tried to become county employees. They're the ones who are going to be damaged. Well, yeah, that's true. The whole county is basically out there, so it just doesn't seem quite right.
What's the cost for this policy update?
You know what? I actually didn't bring. Did you have that, Alan? I actually didn't bring the cost with me.
Additional $1 million limit is $7,500. $2 million limit is $10,000.
Yeah,
$3 million
$12,500.
limit is $12,000.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
I was curious about the in the packet here. It talks about crisis management, event expenses, and it talks about security breach notification expenses.
Yeah.
And it says both of those are subject to a $75,000 sublimit.
Correct.
Does that $75,000 limitation go up if they purchase the higher
Correct.
coverage?
That goes to $250,000.
Because that's not in here. Okay.
That one goes. The third-party liability coverages go to $1 million or $2 million or $3 million.
Right, but that's the one we don't think we need.
Yeah,
What
and
we
then the
need
other
is
one
the
now.
$75,000.
We got that question from Albemarle County and schools, where they did not feel like they needed the third-party liability limits. And since this is the first year that we've been offering the coverage, we've been getting feedback just like what you just provided. So we have just recently made the decision that if people just want to increase that coverage, the crisis management and notification expenses, and get their own coverage for that, that will allow them to do that at a fraction of the cost. Like I'd have to go back and price it depending on your size, but usually we're doing that in the $2,000 to $3,000 range rather than paying the increase. So we are making that. We haven't made that available. We haven't advertised or provided any information on that because that just came up about 3 or 4 weeks ago from Albemarle and Arlington had wanted that. So we are making that available on We'll make that available to everybody in the pool at renewal next year, but if you're interested in that now, we're perfectly fine doing that as an optional kind of interim thing as we continue to see how this progresses over time.
Yeah, that'd be great. They might like to see the pricing on that.
It's
Okay, so
definitely under 3,000. It's
Okay.
definitely no more than 3,000 for that.
And we would go from 75,000 to 200,000 or 250?
That's right. You would still have the $500,000 third-party liability limits capped at the $5 million for the entire pool, but then you would get your own $250,000 crisis management and notification expense limit, the regulatory defense, that stuff.
Okay.
What happens if the pool limit is reached? What happens if the pool limit is reached? Does it just go down pro rata, so you have maybe only 400,000, or is it first come, first served, or is there an additional premium sent out to everybody to pay? Or?
There's not an additional premium, but basically, once we would reach $5 million in payments for claims that occurred in a single fiscal year, we would just cease paying. It just would cease paying.
Okay.
We don't see that really as a major likelihood, but it's, I guess, theoretically.
No, I don't either. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, you have another question?
I'm having a hard time with the whole thing because I don't think the sovereign immunity, that protects the county.
Correct.
Which theoretically protects the taxpayers. But theoretically, the taxpayers are the ones with all their data out on the web, so they're the ones in danger, and if they suffer a loss, they can't sue the county, which the county couldn't take care of its insurance policy. So we're really not protecting the people that are at risk. Are we?
I mean, sovereign immunity is an interesting thing in Virginia. If you have it, you're required to use it. The purchase of insurance doesn't waive it.
No, so most lawsuits that are defended by sovereign immunity defenses are brought by citizens of the locality. Somebody falls on a sidewalk, breaks their leg, whatever. Car wrecks, fire engine wrecks, school bus wrecks. They're all.
But I would think it fair for a citizen to sue the county if the county allowed their data to be stolen and used.
I think they can sue.
Anybody can sue. They're not going to necessarily win. There's still a sovereign immunity defense as long as you've taken reasonable precautions to keep the data from being stolen. Somebody could break into the treasurer's office and steal a lot of that data too. Just physically. They don't have to do it on a computer.
Well, it's just worrisome because I'm on that side and the IRS just got hacked. So if they can hack the IRS, they can hack anybody.
Yeah, and you haven't seen them getting sued yet by a citizen. I mean, I'm just saying, there's no law. There's no law on it.
I mean, sovereign immunity is an interesting thing right now. I've seen, there was a lawsuit against the sheriff in Loudoun County that on a tasering that 10 years ago wouldn't even have blinked.
It's a highly factual defense.
Yeah.
And it depends so much on the facts and circumstances that unless you have a case in point, it's really hard to predict what will happen in a sovereign immunity case, I think.
Okay, as of now, and there are questions. I don't know if other board members still have questions. If it's not something that we have to make a decision on tonight, if you would like more time to maybe discuss this on a more of a one-on-one basis, we could probably arrange for you to be able to do that, if that will help to make a decision. And then we could come back in our next meeting, given the information that we've already heard, unless you're ready to make unless the majority of the board feels like you're ready to make a decision. And I don't see, board members seem to have additional questions. So at this point, Chris, thank you so much for your information. We could table this for now and give board members an opportunity to do a little bit more research and maybe come back with a recommendation at another meeting.
We're not in need of a decision tonight. This is something that the county can add or do whenever it feels like it wants to. I'll send some additional information to staff on the first party pieces so that you can see how it would break down between the third party and the first party pieces from a cost perspective, and you can look at it that way. if you need us to come back or answer any more additional questions. I thought about bringing some examples, but all of the examples are, Target, and, Caroline County's just not Target. You're not going to lose business. There's not business interruption. There's just a lot of things that just don't happen here. So there's just nothing really great to share other than it's there.
Okay.
And everybody knows it.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much,
Thank
Chris.
you.
We can continue this discussion for another meeting. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, that takes us to special exception 03-2014 Commonwealth Fairs and Events owner applicant. Good evening, ma'am.
Thank you all. Well, I believe in your packet, after the June 30th meeting, I'll update you very quickly on some of the things that transpired after that meeting. Discussion that night on opposition to fireworks, lots of questions about the RV rally piece and regulations within and how it would be monitored and kind of reporting and staging and setup. So after that meeting and the issue basically was tabled, I've talked to as many of you as I can to answer questions, but we also held a community meeting last week with Supervisor Underwood and our neighbors of the Meadow Event Park property. Listened to a lot of concerns about the fireworks piece, and I made the decision that night just to pull it off the table. I felt like there was too much sentiment against it, and the real issue for us and for me and my new role at the Meadow is to keep the Meadow's business moving forward, and the RV rally piece that's before you tonight is far more important to me. It's important that we work with our neighbors, and I think we had a great meeting, and as what you have in front of you tonight addresses some of their concerns about quiet times. I also will point out that I had the Virginia Department of Health, Julie Henderson, who is the director of the Division of Food and Environmental Services, on the grounds today looking at this effort, and spent about 2 hours with her, and anything we do has to first be approved by the Department of Health. So for any RV rally that we wanted to stage and produce at the property, we have to produce a plan in writing with all of the I's dotted and T's crossed to the Department of Health, and then also go through the county layer. So I believe that the proposal that's on the table tonight, to be fair to the property and to give us a chance to move forward and also address some of the concerns of the neighbors with respect to security and quiet times. I'd be happy to answer any further questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Board members, did you have questions, or Mr. Underwood, would you like to address?
If there are any comments, I'll say mine.
Okay, any board comments regarding the special exception for Commonwealth Fairs and Events? Seeing no one.
Mr. Chairman, I want to certainly thank Maureen for having the meeting and the community people that came out. What we were able to do was take a look and really see how business and community can come together and work out a solution. And I certainly appreciate her willingness to sit down with us and discuss and look at it from the other side of the fence. It was a good meeting, and we're looking at having additional meetings as we move forward, and State Fair and Meadow Event Park continues to grow. We're looking forward to assisting you in growing. With that said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve special exception 03-2014.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we would approve special exception 03-2014 Commonwealth Fairs and Events on an applicant as presented.
With these, yeah, I'm sorry, Mike.
With these conditions, and specifically for the special exception 5, which is camping events.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, will you amend your motion to include those conditions and special
Yes, sir,
exception
Mr. Chairman. With the conditions of special exception, so noted in Mr. Fincham's information to us.
Okay, Mr. Black, I believe you second this?
Yes, that's second.
Okay, so it's been moved and properly second that we would approve special exception 03-2014 as presented with the additional conditions as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
That takes us to agenda item number 7, an update on Richmond 2015 UCI Road World Cycling Championships.
I'm outnumbered. Come on, Melton, get up there. Mr.
Good
Chairman.
evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. I'll just give a quick overview of what you've been included in your packet, and I believe the sheriff wants to talk to you about one specific issue, and Stacy, Lieutenant Carey can go over the law enforcement end. We're about 31 days out to the start of the World Championship cycling race here in Richmond. September 23rd will be the day that affects Caroline County with a men's elite time trial. That's 32 miles extending from Kings Dominion all the way back down to downtown Richmond. Some things for Caroline County, things you need to know. Beginning September 21st, VDOT will be putting out 21 variable message signs, both in our county and around 30 and 301, alerting drivers to the traffic change on the 23rd in that area. Those same 15 signs will then be moved for the day of the event to cover the road closure for that part of the track. On September 23rd, we can expect a soft road closure starting at 11 a.m. in the morning with hard or no traffic going down 3301 on the course at 12 o'clock. VDOT will be putting various barriers out there, snow fence in certain areas, hard barriers in other. We've asked that they put one traffic cone in each driveway that touches the course as a visual reminder to those residents that have a house along that course that there's something going on. They've agreed to do that. For us, the Sheriff's Office, State Police, and VDOT will have a unified command center at the Frog Level Fire Station on the second floor, which is our backup EOC, gives us an opportunity to practice that. Our command and area command will be part of a greater Hanover County command, which is part of the regional command, which is downtown Richmond. From that flow chart or that ICS model, we're able to get special services in there if we need to, bomb-sniffing dogs or other resources if something goes wrong. UCI is publishing that the roads will reopen at 4:30, okay, but they're also publishing the race will end at 3:30. So we're anticipating, hopefully in Caroline County, we should see some staggered road openings of 30 and 301. We're hoping around 3 o'clock, and that will facilitate getting buses back to where they need to be to drop kids off for school. If for some reason that timeline changes, that is one issue we know that'll be backed up is the school bus issue. We're working with JD to try to find some alternate routes for that. With that, the last real open thing for us in general is the public outreach. We can discuss that when the sheriff gets done speaking. In our packet, we gave you where fire rescue resources will be, how many will be needed. The cost of those resources has been submitted to the sheriff's office to be submitted to UCI, which is about $2,100 for those costs. And again, that's an estimate. We don't know how many volunteer people we're going to get to cover some of those slots and how many people would be on straight time or overtime. So that's an estimate for us at this point. But with that, I'll turn it over to Sheriff or Lieutenant Carey.
Thank you, Chief. I'm only going to be a few minutes because we just got, like the Chief said, the numbers for them along with the Sheriff's Office personnel, and it's going to come up to approximately $7,908. So before the board, I believe Mr. Parton is going to get with Mr. Cully, draft up the letter both for the Chief and I to sign. And to get y'all's approval, I would suggest that we, get the monies up front somewhere around September 1st, or no later than the week after that, because should they close the road and we choose not to, or y'all choose not to use county funds for this, then the state police would have to handle it. And if you have any questions about the race itself, Lieutenant Carey is here because he's attended all the meetings. Something that I heard tonight about the cones being placed at every driveway, and I know, Mr. Underwood, when we were at yours, that gentleman told us they would have volunteers at everyone. It's a whole lot of difference between a volunteer now and a cone there. So we'll address that issue again. Okay.
Okay, board members have questions for the sheriff?
I think the one thing, Mr. Chairman, the one thing to make sure is you and Chief Loftus both said all of these costs for local personnel will go to UCI, who will reimburse us or pay us ahead of time.
That's what we're hoping.
Okay. Well, that was a little different than what the original promoter said because he wanted a partnership at first. So I think this is at least a good plan. But if we're not paid and we don't use county resources, then you said the state police would be required or what?
Mr. Cully.
Well, clearly, I brought this to your attention, several months ago because normally when a road gets closed, the state police first sergeant and the sheriff and I have to sign a permit for VDOT to affect that closure. And I had told VDOT at one of the race meetings in Richmond, I wasn't signing any permit if it was coming to my desk until the board had authorized me to, because it could inconvenience a lot of folks. So that's what sort of got the race people here talking to us about this to begin with. And then that's when they kind of indicated, well, we'd like to partner. But since that time, and we're at a community meeting in Dawn, it kind of led us to believe that they recognized that our economic benefit wasn't Henrico's in the city of Richmond or Hanover's, and that they would look at covering our cost. So I assume the governor closed the road. I mean, that's just an assumption, and they won't ask us to sign any permits or do anything. And if the sheriff doesn't agree to go down there and block off all the intersections, I assume the state police or the National Guard or whoever the governor decides he wants to use would have to affect that. Where our problem lies is Chief Loftus is going to still have to pre-position his folks, because it's not the race folks that we're worried about now. If we have somebody who has a heart attack or a stroke or has some issues down there and the roads are all jammed all up, we've got to have already thought how we're going to affect transport and moving those people. So that the chief's plan is to protect our citizens. The sheriff's plan is to block all the roads off to protect the racers. So it's two different things in the plan. So if we don't get funding, we're going to still be out the 2,100 estimate that the chief has, plus all of the senior staff time from the sheriff's department, the chief, the deputy chief, myself, that have been involved in these meetings over the last several months that we haven't been reimbursed for. But clearly the large cost will be the sheriff's department. And I guess that would just have to be covered by state troopers if they all make the decision that you don't want him to do it if we don't get reimbursed. And that's clearly going to be our best bet at getting it being reimbursed, as the board says right up front. We're not putting all these sheriff's resources out, paying them all overtime, pulling them from everywhere to get this done. We have a big county to take care of. Fire and rescue, we're going to have to do what we have to do.
That's why we have 19 fire and rescue people scheduled for this. But Joe's house is right near, and Ms. Lambert's, they're right near the state fair. So you got to have somebody right near the state fair. But the other person that lives halfway on the other side of Route 30, you got to have somebody at each of these cones.
And again, now, when we talked to them and we had this plan that was there was an alternate plan not to come through Caroline County at all. And because of that, they found it more beneficial to pay the county up front to handle this route. Now, again, we're going to take care of our citizens. I want you all to understand that. I'm just looking for the money up front, so it takes care of it. We're going to be there with at least 23 of our personnel.
But Tony, my question, and I think Floyd's kind of alluding to it, how will we let the residents give them information to make sure if there is an emergency, they know how, when, and where they're going to get support? That's the question for me.
And that's where they're supposed to come out with all the brochures. They're supposed to have their volunteers go through it. Our function is not going to change. We have our contingency plans to take care of our people. If they call 911, we're going to be there. Correct, Chief? You're going to be staged?
And they have, I mean, we've seen these races before on TV. They do have ambulances that are sometimes in the race. So we can kind of traffic them into one lane and let the ambulance go the other way, right? That's what you're thinking?
But Mr. Thomas,
Couple.
one of the things that we asked for, wait a minute, before we go down, we asked for film footage of Caroline County and being able to give written scripts to the event folks in their narrative in exchange for our giving them fire and rescue in the sheriff's office. Am I not correct that we had that discussion?
That's when they talked about being a partnership.
I'm curious where we are with that discussion, because that was because if that's off the table, then they fully owe us.
Have you seen the ads for the racing that are coming from Richmond? They're
I
on
have.
all the Richmond channels,
I
and
have.
there's nothing about Caroline.
Let me try to address a couple. We'll start over here with Mr. Underwood's question.
Thank you, Chief Loftus.
We have not done anything. Here's my concern, and the sheriff alluded to the volunteers at UCI is supposed to participate and put in the driveways. They're supposed to be there, but I know VDOT will actually put a cone there. I can count on VDOT. I'm concerned with 200 volunteers coming into the county to do this function when they need 3,500 across this one course. I'm a little skeptical on that. So to answer your question, we have done nothing. We, Caroline County, have done nothing to notify the residents. And that's something that I think as a county we need to undertake. We could certainly reach out to UCI, but they really haven't even started public meetings. They're advertising, but they haven't had the sit-down public meetings as Mr. Underwood has. So whether it's the sheriff's office or we do it together, we need to reach out to the citizens. There's going to be a cost to that.
And we understand that there may be a cost, but, and if we have to ensure the safety of the citizens, then we'll just have to eat the cost. But the reality of it is, there should be some notification to make sure every resident in the back of their mind has a plan and understand what is the next step should something occur.
I agree
100%. That's my concern. The UC, I mean, it's their race, but it's our citizens who are impacted. So we need to make sure that the impact is minimized. And that's what I told Mr. Miller, is that you have to assure me that you're going to minimize the impact to the citizens.
You know, Mr. Underwood, as we talked at your meeting, and that was great that the UCI people were there, and I know that Mr. and Mrs. James are here too, and those were some of the questions that came up. And they said that they were going to notify people, they were going to do that. We know that it is our county, and we will draft something up to help speed that along, because we already know that whether we close the roads or whether the governor does it, that the state police will do that, we're still going to take care of our people.
Right. So I agree. I think we should draft something regardless of what they do to notify, our citizens, to make sure that, they have a level of ease about what's taking place. There's no such thing as too much information.
No.
So,
But I mean,
I
the issue
agree with
really
you.
is the plan on how to get fire and rescue folks through the race.
Well, that's what they're going to do.
And we do.
Yeah.
We already have that, because there
Right.
is time periods when a racer goes by, and we are familiar with that. That's part of our operational plan. But we'll put something together that that would deal with our soft closure and the closure of the race and the time to open.
Okay, I guess one of the questions that I would have is that you're here, Chief, and you're here, Sheriff, but there's nobody here from UCI. And I mean, is that something that we should have? I mean, because I know they were there at the.
They came in the beginning
Right.
to ask for a partnership.
Right, but now that we are at the final stages, and we are dependent upon UCI to reimburse us for funds that we're going to put up. And I mean, there's nobody here from UCI who's saying to us, put the funds up, we're going to reimburse you. Because I guess I'm concerned about the county citizen safety, but I'm also concerned about county citizens' taxpayers' dollars being used. And we aren't really assured, well, maybe we are assured, I don't know, but there's nobody here saying, if you put up X number of county dollars, this is not our money to spend, this is the citizens' money to spend. And I don't know that, I just think someone should be here who could reassure us from UCI that we're going to be reimbursed.
Well, we were trying to get paid ahead of time.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can we not have somebody from UCI here for your next board meeting?
That would be great.
I think that's what we need to do, and we'll put this in this letter when they owe us the money to make sure the representatives here, to give us their entire plan.
Okay. All right. Yes, Mr. Black?
I just got, Mr. Parton, maybe you can answer this. What are, I know the economic impact to other counties is going to be greater than ours, but as far as the reimbursement is concerned, what are the counties, like Hanover and wherever it's going through, what are they doing as far as fire and rescue and so forth, as far as do we know that yet?
I can cover that. Keep in mind, in 2010, the city of Richmond, through its partnership with Richmond 2015, put in a bid for this race.
Okay.
When they got the race in 2011, they were awarded that. They went to the regional partners, okay, being Hanover, Chesterfield, and Henrico, and said, hey, what can you put up for this race? And I'll give you something that was published. Henrico County has agreed to provide about $860,000, including cash, administration costs, and has agreed to provide up to $540,000 for police services and ancillary events. So they've already put their money up to be a partner with this event. If you look at Hanover, Hanover will make a $100,000 cash contribution and provide services in the extent of $65,000. Chesterfield refused to participate in that part, so that you don't see the race in Chesterfield.
So those counties are actually paying for the fire and rescue services?
Those counties are putting those up, yes.
But if I could interrupt you, Mr. Black, for a moment, but those counties are going to be reimbursed because they're going to make money. They have the hotels, they have the other things. They're going to do the business that's going to bring them. Whereas Caroline is a little bit different. But I can tell you, the citizens of Hanover County are not going to fork over $500,000 if they're not going to get the money for it.
How many of these guys are coming in mobile home parks that we could park at the state fair and then make some money off of it? Maybe that's it. That's the only way we would get any impact at all.
Mr. Cully, can you answer the...
That's not an event for you? Oh.
Did they ever
Nice
answer
try.
up the media portion of this? They offered up scripts, film footage, the whole 9 yards.
Not to me. Our initial contacts with them that we had done prior to that, they weren't willing to do anything. I don't know whether Kathy's got any update from after they made that promise.
Because that was part of the deal. If they did that, then we were willing to be a partner. But if they haven't done that and they're advertising, then as far as I'm concerned, they've nullified that whole part of the deal.
Yeah, the only thing that the Sheriff's Office and Fire Rescue have been involved with is the planning for the event. The actual UCI administration has not reached back out to us probably since Mr. Underwood had them at their meeting. So we have had no contact with the management of UCI.
The reality of it is, this event is going to take place whether we like it or not. So we can sit here and posture and talk about, we need to make sure that we take care of the citizens to ensure them that they have everything they need should an emergency occur. I don't really care about the rest of it at this point because it's out of my control. I have no control. That's the governor's control. But I do have some control of what we do for the citizens and make it as painless as possible for this event to occur, go smoothly, and ensure safety for the citizens. That's my concern. That's all I'm concerned about. So if you guys can help me with that, we can come together and put a plan, we have it in place. I'd like to just then talk about how we get the information to the citizens so they have a comfort level and we move forward.
One thing we have a plan for that, and I'll go to Mr. Thomas. Your questions as far as response, we have an engine and ambulance at the Bull Ruler House on Meadow Event. So we can go north into Meadow Event under the tunnel. We can cover Meadow Event Farm, Sadie Lane. We have another ambulance at Baylor so we can make the crossover to get down to Mount Gideon. So we're covered in there, and we have a plan. The Sheriff's Office has deputies there that can make those same crossovers. So we have the ability to get in and out of that area. So we do have a positive and hard and fast plan. The question is going to become, though, to the board, if they don't pay, if they choose not to pay the costs, what is the consequence? That we're not going to support the race? That I don't know. So
I don't think anybody wants to not support the race. I want our citizens, as Mr. Underwood has stated, I want our citizens to be safe. This board wants our citizens to be safe, and I'm sure you all want the same thing. But at the same time, if there is reimbursement, I want it. I don't want to just dump a check out there and have them think that it's okay. Right, okay.
I think that's our,
okay.
plan. We're going to tell them this is what
Okay.
we think it's going to cost.
Okay. All right.
See what they do.
Yeah, okay.
Beforehand, not
Okay.
reimbursement.
Yeah, right away.
Okay.
We'll send them
Okay.
an invoice.
It sounds like they've got the safety part
Right.
That's
outlined. Okay.
Okay.
We do.
Okay.
And in the letter, we'll put in there that if they don't want to come through Caroline, they want to stay all in Hanover, they can do their phase 2. I didn't want to confuse it. We're good.
That's fine, too.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so that takes us to agenda item, new business. Agenda item 8, request for expedited public hearing.
Chairman, I just have one question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
Do we want staff to draft a letter to UCI and maybe get some answers to our questions about reimbursement?
I think that would be appropriate,
Can we-
yes. I think they were going to do that.
Oh, you're going to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 8, request for expedited public hearing. There is a motion in order.
Wait, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I was distracted.
The expedited public hearing.
Oh, that's why everybody was looking at me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I thought Mr. Wilson was going to make a presentation first, or would you?
I think we're ready to.
All right,
But thank you, Mr. Wood.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Chairman, whereas the County Department of Economic Development has been working with a prospect interested in purchasing land in the Carmel Church area of the county for several years to construct a large distribution center, and whereas the land in question needs to be rezoned to permit such use, and the time is of the essence with regard to rezoning in order for the project to move forward within the company's schedule and timeline, I move that the Board of Supervisors approve the public notice advertising holding of an expedited public hearing for the rezoning of the property, which will be identified by the Department of Economic Development at a later date prior to the publishing of public notice. Such expedited public hearing to be held on October 13th, 2015, or such other date as may be expedient and beneficial to the project, provided that the Planning Commission of the county has taken action on the matter by such date.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that the request for expedited public hearing would be granted as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. That takes us to the approval of documents associated with the funding of Ladysmith Volunteer Fire Company station repairs and improvements. Chief, it's good to see you again. It's like you were just here.
I know it. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Before you tonight is the Ladysmith Volunteer Fire Company renovation and repair capital improvement project for 2016. We're in the final steps of this long-standing project, about 2 years. For your consideration tonight are the legal documents associated with allowing a capital project in a volunteer-owned station. This is following the board's process that was approved in June of 2014. The final cost figure for the project, and if the board so chooses, to award the construction bid for the project. Because at this point this project spanned almost 2 years, I'd like to take a moment and just recap some of the milestones. If you'll turn to your board packet, the fire rescue submittal, I'll just go down those milestones very quickly. September of 2013, Kevin Whiteman, chief building official for the county, was called out to the fire station to inspect the second floor. Upon his inspection, he found a delamming of the second floor plywood as well as some structural deficiencies resulting in the closure of the second floor of the station. All operations ceased upstairs and were moved downstairs. In February of 2014, Chief Melson came before this board and discussed that project and expanding that project into a renovation because they were going to have to tear down the first floor ceiling, redo electrical, redo lights, redo the floor span, and trying to make that into a more comprehensive project. In April of 2014, our department brought forth to the board a set of recommendations to allow funding in a volunteer fire station using county funds. In June of 2014, the board approved that process, and we'll go over that process in detail. September of 2014, the county hired an architect to develop the detailed site plan and the bid documents necessary to go out and find a final cost for that project. In December of 2014, the board approved $600,000 and change for capital improvements in the fire rescue department, and this was one of those projects at the time. And I'll skip down to June 2015. The project went out for invitation to bid through Public Works, and then the July of 2015, the bids have been received and have been opened. At this point, following the board's process for this, we have three main provisions to allow for funding in a volunteer fire station or a property that the county does not own. The first one of those is a condition, and I'll summarize, that if the property or the company is no longer able to function as a volunteer fire company, that property and its assets would revert back to the county. And Mr. Emerson has provided the documents there, and he can talk of those in detail in here in a minute, to allow that to happen. So, for example, if we fund this project and down the road that volunteer fire company no longer exists or is not able to meet the standards, the county would have ownership of that property to be used as a fire station. The second provision, if the company was seeking funding, it must allocate a minimum of 50% of the required funds unless it can prove satisfactory evidence of its inability to provide those funds. And District Chief Melson is here to address that issue to the board. And the third provision, in the event a portion or all of the costs are paid for by the county would have oversight of the project and would follow its procurement process. Mr. Schiebel is here to address that provision, but the bids have gone out through the county procurement process, and Public Works would oversee the construction and renovation project. At this point, Mr. Schiebel has reported that the project, with a 10% contingency added to that, as you see in the packet, would be $292,000 and some change. To give you a recap of what you have available, $150,000 was approved for this project in the 2000 fiscal year 16 for capital improvements. Fire Rescue has a capital reserve fund, and it does have an unobligated balance of $164,000, which you could use that to balance off the rest of that fund. So with that, District Chief Melson, if you'll come up and address Provision 2.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I've got some talking points to discuss with y'all, and there's enough copies. I hope to. I'll wait till y'all get them before we go over them, and that way we can kind of track it. First of all, I appreciate everybody's patience, the cooperation that we continue to have with Chief Loftus, and the support that Kevin Whiteman from the building department has provided us as well as Public Works and Joey Schiebel. So to start off the top of it, I've got a snapshot of the time period from when we started this to where we are today, September 2013 to August 1st of 2015. We currently have about 40, give or take. Every month we lose one, gain two, and it math averages out. I got 40 personnel that I'm responsible for supervising out of our station, and that's around the clock from typically from 6 at night till 6 in the morning, Monday through Friday, and 24 hours a day on the weekends. Career staff, the county provides us 2 career providers at our station Monday through Friday from 6 in the morning till 6 in the afternoon. So those guys are there, and ladies are there from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening, Monday through Friday. I've listed the current apparatus that's assigned to our station and our replacement cost of today's date of what they would do if we had to replace them. I've also put the current assessed value of our facility and the acreage associated to such in the tune of $681,000 was the last tax assessment that was done on our property. From the times at 6 p.m. till 6 at night, 6 in the morning, over that 2-year period, we've I had to answer 2,157 emergency calls out of our fire station. Of those, 96% of them, we were out the door in less than 5 minutes. It's imperative that we have a facility that we can house people overnight to get out the door properly. Currently, out of 40 members, less than 3 live within a 5-minute typical drive to our fire station, and we can't answer calls for service at that time frame. Dispatch to on scene puts us there at your doorstep in less than 10 minutes. And that's going all the way to Cromwell Church, going as far down Page Road as to almost South River. And a lot of these calls, typically we put a staffed engine on everything. My firehouse is staffed on the majority of the time 5 nights a week at a minimum. And we're putting on calls all over the county. So during the same amount of reporting time, we've conducted 26 classes out of our firehouse and trained over 360 students for a total of 20,750 man hours that we've trained out of this facility out of living out of one floor and conducting training and running emergency calls out of it at the same time. My volunteer staff alone have staffed 25,041 hours of their time towards the community and serving in capacity of answering fire calls, training, staffing the firehouse, maintaining it, actually being there on call overnight to make sure we can answer your call. Currently, the hourly rate that's associated from virginiaservice.org is a volunteer's time is worth $24.90 an hour in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Take that plus 26,079 hours. That alone, in almost 2 years, we've saved the county $649,367 in man hours alone. That's not benefits or associated with such. Currently, we have $13,000 in our checking account. Our savings account has $54,000, give or take. These amounts were taken when I did this document about a week ago. We just got the bill last night. I had to resurface our parking lot. It was getting to the point, it was deteriorating to a point where if we didn't do something with it, we would be in the same condition as other ones. We've asked for it in numerous years past, countless times for the last 8 that I know of, to get that through a CIP. It just doesn't get funded, so we got to the point where we had to do it on our own. That check I wrote last night for $6,820. So those accounts, of course, are a little bit changing. We hold a minimum of 3 meetings a month there, just internally alone. Some of you folks on the board have held town meetings there, town hall meetings. We've also had the DMV to go, comes every quarter, parks in the parking lot, uses the facility as well. Previous public meetings, fundraisers for community organizations have been held there over the numerous years that we've been in existence. We've got an increased level of efficiency for electricity and water usage worked into the plans that we've come up with. This will allow for separate men and women sleeping quarters. That's just the way in the day. I mean, it's 2015. We can't get by with the way we did it when I started 24 years ago. Will allow for separate men's shower facilities for the same reasons. Plus, it's going to allow us a tiered level of secured access to our living and meeting room areas. So the way that we design the plans now, a citizen rings the doorbell, they come into a welcoming foyer area, and it's secured. So once they come in, they have to get allowed access to certain portions of the facility. If y'all would like to have a meeting upstairs in the meeting area that will be up there, then that's fine. It will allow people to come in, go through that way, go straight to the meeting room area, but not have access to all our personnel records, our living space, certain areas like that. And allows for ADA compliance restrooms on the first floor, which currently we don't have. So I've attached a copy of our training record. And if you flip to page 3, there's a panoramic view of what our facility that we've been living out of for almost 2 years. To the far left is the front door when you walk in. You pass through the kitchen, the office, the day room, our sleeping area, bathrooms, and our dining area, all in one 15-step path. And our guys have coexisted like this for almost 2 years. We're trying to remedy that tonight. We, as a fire department, are not in a financial situation to where we can fund half this project, as one of those provisions is stated. And I'm coming before you tonight asking you to fund the full amount to have this project completed. I've got the support of my department and its membership to, and we're in agreement with the provisions there to sign what the county attorney has drawn up. And we're putting up a $681,000 piece of property for a $266,000 note. We've dedicated countless hours and saved the county countless thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars in our time alone, only because we want to serve the county. And that's what we're asking for tonight, is to get that support back and the fact that we can move forward, maintain that firehouse in a ready state. We're going to have some money that's going to have to go out. We're going to try to move temporarily into our old firehouse, because in order to get this contract done, I've allowed them 24-hour access to our current living space at the fire station so that we can get this project done sooner and get the fire station back in service. So we're going to have to spend a few $1,000s to get our old firehouse to where we can actually stay in it overnight, get phone service over there, get heat, get air conditioning. I got to move a bathroom trailer in with showers so that if somebody gets contaminated at a scene, that we can get them back, get them showered, because I won't have shower or restroom facilities. And that's a cost that we're willing to incur as well during this process, to include furnishing, et cetera. We asked in the original project plan to have office cubicle spaces upstairs. That was cut out, so we're going to have to fund that down the road to get portable partitions put in some form or fashion so that we can office space and cube out the second floor of the facility. Right now, it's left to where all our living area will be on the first floor. The meeting room, training center, a conference room, and a bathroom is upstairs, and the rest of it's an open floor plan. But at this point, I want my firehouse back, and I don't have it right now.
Thank you, sir. Do you have anything else, Chief?
If you have any questions for Chief Melson? Do we have any questions on the procurement process, the process the county used to acquire the bids, the construction drawings? Mr. Schiebel's here to answer those if the board has any of those.
Okay, let me just kind of recap. You're asking for how much? Just for
$292,000.
Okay.
Cost of property.
Up to $292,000.
$292,278.
Okay, and originally it was a sort of a 50-50 agreement.
Well, this has never been done before. So the board has not invested this quantity of money into a station or a building it does not own in the volunteer system or in the career system. So this is new charted water. Back in June, you adopted a policy which we needed to follow, and we have followed that.
Okay.
One of those conditions was the company themselves would have to put up a certain amount of money,
Right.
or tell you why they were not able to do that. And I think he's done that.
Okay.
You know how much he has in his bank.
And it's just for clarity. I'm
Yes,
just,
sir.
that I'm asking that. Okay. Are there other questions? I
have one.
Mr. Sealy?
Chief Nelson, you said a note that for us to give you a note.
That was just
Okay,
figuratively speaking, sir. Yes, sir.
so we understand that we're going to pay for it, and then the agreement is if you guys cease to exist, we just get the building.
Yes, sir.
And okay, I just wanted
Yes,
to make sure
yes,
there
sir.
wasn't.
That was just
That's okay.
a relative term that I'd used.
Okay.
We're leveraging that property against the money that y'all are lending us to take care of the repair. We're actually not the receiving end of this contract. Caroline County is actually the one that's paying the builder to fix our facility.
I just wanted to make sure we were
Yes, sir.
clear, that's all.
No, sir, no, sir.
Thank you.
So you're not putting up your building as collateral for this note, which is what you said?
Not
For
literally.
for the funding?
Literally, no. Figuratively, I'm signing over a document
Right.
to the county saying that if we cease to exist down the road,
That's the
that
only
a
catch you
facility
have.
that my members built 30-plus years ago gets turned over to the county.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Akers, did you?
Yeah, I do. And it's not a question as much as it is hoping that this board will see fit to move forward with this building improvements and renovations and to pay the whole thing. Chief Loftus, there's money left in the CPI fund, or CIP fund, rather, for the improvements to buildings wherever, not just this building, but other buildings throughout the county.
If you were to fund this project completely, there's still another $22,000 of unobligated money.
Yeah.
There's still money associated with the Bowling Green Fire Station, which we wanted to finish one project
Right.
and then move to the next. And we would probably have funds based on what we rolled over from 2015 to fund that project as well. So
Okay.
you have the funding. It's up to you how you
Okay.
fund it.
My point is the fact that this organization has been in place for many, many years. It has saved the county taxpayers a lot of money. And if the volunteers decide to walk away because they cannot live under conditions and operate and work under the conditions that they're now operating under, then this county, if we choose not to fund it, then he's not going to sign his building over saying if they cease to exist, that the county gets the building. So we would then have to go out and build a new fire station. We'd have to go out and pay the career people to run this operations there. I just think it makes sense. To me, it's a no-brainer to do this, and I trust this board will see fit to do just that.
Okay. Other board comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Black?
Chief Nelson, I want to thank you for coming. These statistics are very good. Obviously, I'm sorry that it's taken 2 years. That's been a little frustration overall as the length of the time is taken, but it's something that you guys definitely deserve. You do a great service to the county, so I really think that everyone should support this. I don't see why. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Thank you. And it's like I said almost 2 years ago, if I could literally afford to do this project on our own, I wouldn't have spent the last 2 years battling this and doing the paperwork and the legwork and going through these steps to come before y'all. It's a very humbling experience as the leader of our organization. It's been in place for almost 60 years now. So.
Other board comments? The only thing I would add is I certainly have no problem with what's being asked of the board personally. The only thing I would say is we need to understand that we're going to get follow-up situations like this.
Do you not think we've already gotten follow-up, Mr.
Well, we
We've
will.
already gotten follow-up.
And I understand, but I just want us to know that we need to do the same thing the next time.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion.
And even for those that don't exist yet, we need to do the same thing.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
If I may interject, at this point, you're just making a motion to approve the legal documents, and then we'll ask for a second motion to award the bid.
You heard what Mr. Loftus said that motion was going to be. So
Okay.
that's my motion.
The resolution, if you just adopt the resolution that's in front of you.
Mr. Chairman,
That would take
my
care of-
motion is to adopt the resolution that has been presented to us tonight dealing with the Ladysmith Fire Department.
Second.
It's been moved in proper second that we adopt the resolution as before us, that's before us in its entirety. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
One more.
Okay, now, is it? Oh, okay. Agenda item 10, the awarding of the bid for Ladysmith Fire Company repairs and improvements.
Mr.
A
Chairman.
motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the award the bid for the Ladysmith Volunteer Fire Company repairs and improvements to Williams Contractors. Is that who got the bid?
Second.
We move properly second that we would approve the awarding of the bids for Ladysmith Volunteer Fire Company repairs and improvements as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to agenda item number 11, the first reading of Chapter 45, Environmental Regulations. Mr. Fincher.
Now, let's finish, because it's already.
Okay, if you start talking, they'll stop talking.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next item on the agenda tonight is a first reading for the what we want to call the environmental chapter of the county code. The county currently has a floodplain ordinance which is actually contained in the zoning ordinance. It was last updated in 2009 when there were updates to the floodplain maps and our ordinance that was in place at that time. Since then, the Virginia Department of Conservation, in concert with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, has come up with a new model ordinance, which they have now directed localities that have floodplain regulations to go back in and update their ordinances. Hence the reason we are here tonight. We're following with state and federal requirements to update our floodplain management regulations. As part of that, however, we thought this would be the appropriate time to begin the transition from having our different environmental regulations in different ordinances and to consolidate those regulations into one chapter of the county code, which we believe will be easier for everybody to reference the regulations in one place versus having to look in multiple sections of the zoning ordinance, multiple sections of the county code. We would propose to consolidate these and all future regulations, Chesapeake Bay Preservation, stormwater management, if and when the board chooses to adopt those regulations, into this one chapter, which currently are the erosion and sediment control regulations for the county. So we would use this chapter to begin that transition. The model ordinance that you have before you tonight is currently being reviewed by DCR and is not quite ready for public hearing. We have to get their comments back and incorporate them if there are any changes into the final document. But the purpose was to get this to you. Again, this is being mandated by the Commonwealth of Virginia and FEMA as part of their regulatory update. The second item that is included in here is an issue near and dear to Mr. Black's heart, which is to, as construction projects come to completion in the county, the board's aware that we've got a number of soil stockpile piles throughout the county. As part of this process, we have included language that would ensure that those stockpiles are addressed and removed prior to the completion of future projects in the county. We've also included that in the E&S regulations. So with that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Board members have questions for Mr. Fincham? Okay.
I have one,
okay.
two.
Mr. Sealer.
Mr. Fincham, I guess consolidating this into one reference, does it have any effect on building permits or zoning?
No, sir. We would make sure everything's cross-referenced as part of that process.
And my second comment is basically on page 1 where it says, and I don't know if this is a change, but it says that where's the purpose of this chapter is to prevent the degradation of properties, streams, channels, waters, and other natural resources of Caroline County by establishing requirements for the control of soil erosion, sediment deposition, and non-agricultural runoff, and by estimating or by establishing procedures whereby these requirements shall be administered and enforced. And that only brings one question to mind, in that when we have a failed drain field and we've allowed those drain fields to be abandoned and to be pre-treated and dumped into non-named water sources, how will this affect us in that
This does not affect that at all. This is simply related to the erosion and sediment control regulations adopted under ENS law.
Even under the non-agricultural runoff?
That is your runoff and development that you get from, say, a construction site.
Okay, we've never really resolved that issue, and I didn't know what this was going to do to that issue.
I would say that issue is still unresolved. That's
So-
not part of this.
That was the genesis of my question, and that's all I've got for tonight.
Okay, you said we're not ready for public hearing. Could we approve it pending information from the state saying that it's in order or everything is okay? Would the board like to approve it pending that, or would you want to just put it on hold until?
Yeah, put it on. This is just first reading.
Okay,
I do have a question, Mr. Fincher.
okay.
When we talk about the large stockpiles of dirt,
Yes, sir.
and we talk about until a project is completed, Ladysmith Village, for instance, the project is not completed.
Correct.
So they keep, in fact, they keep excavating the development to build new homes at, and that they're dumping the dirt over there on those stockpiles and making them even higher in certain places. And I think the same thing with the development of the property where the bank is.
Yes, sir.
That project is not completed as to the way that it was laid out and the way it was approved. So at what point do you consider a project complete? I mean, is it after it's built out, or?
Where we have phase projects, I think we would look at it on a phase-by-phase basis.
Now, Ladysmith Village is in phase 1, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And as part of the build-out of phase 1, let's go to phase 2, okay? Because the regulations would take effect once you adopt them.
Gotcha.
You have a phase 2, as part of their site plan, they would identify where the soil stockpiles are going to be and how those are going to be remediated by the end of the completion of that phase. It's not something that gets put off for 10, 15, 20 years to the last phase. We get to that last phase and they say, oh, by the way, we don't have enough land area to take care of this. We're going to look at that on a phase-by-phase approach.
Good, okay. Thank you.
Okay, other questions, comments? If not, we will table it, then it seems the board would like to table it until.
We'll just
we get-
continue the first reading.
Well, okay. All right, that takes us to informational calendar items.
We included in your packet, Fred ridership report and your capital projects report. You can see we are getting close to finishing the radio system, and we'll have Deputy Chief Garnett here on the first meeting in September to give you an update of where we are. We hope to have a firm schedule from Motorola on the completion of that now. We did finally get our last tower. They've gotten the equipment installed there, so we're hoping to finish up this fall before the leaves fall. So I can't give you the exact dates because we haven't got them from Motorola yet, but we hope to have that for September 8th.
We haven't done the leak test yet?
Well, no, the system's not complete.
Okay, but I thought they were going to do station to station or something like that so they could do.
No, the prime site was Stars, unfortunately.
Right.
That's where the head-in equipment,
Okay.
we had to have that site.
That's
So
right.
we just started getting the equipment installed there, the hut's there, and we had to do a little bit of tower work. But anyway, so they'll be installing the dispatch equipment, and we'll start doing coverage testing where we go in they grid off the whole county and ride in every grid and see what the reception and the quality is. We'll give you a better update on that at the September meeting. We have Mr. Underwood's meeting on September 3rd. We have Labor Day Monday right after that, September 7th. Our meeting is the next day, September 8th. We have obviously the state fair coming in, and as we talked, the UCI race the 23rd in September. So not much going on in the end of August, but fairly busy in September. That is correct.
Right.
Correct. The Tuesday before the race is Wednesday.
Right. Okay. Closing board comments, Mr. Thomas?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a request from Mr. Fincham. Request the board to direct the owner of property at tax map 82A2-89, 10465 Gallant Fox Way to cut the grass by August 28th, or the county will have it cut in accordance with Chapter 77. So I need a motion for the board, or is staff direction enough? Mr. Fincham? According to us, we need a motion from the board, or just, I need a motion from the board. So I would make that a motion and ask for a second in concurrence of the board.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second, that we would notify the specific landowner about the grass cutting, and if it's not done by the date named, then the county would take care of that.
With our property minutes, yes.
Okay. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you,
Is that
sir.
all? Mr. Black, you have any?
Can we discuss how is this different than the Charlesburg jungle? I mean, how is that different than what we get going, the rainforest out there?
It's zoned residential, and by ordinance, it qualifies for our action, whereas the site in Charlesburg is zoned rural preservation.
And so we have to wait till January?
Yes.
Okay.
Why don't you get it rezoned to rural, residential? Maybe?
Okay, is that all, Mr. Black? Okay. Ms. Underwood?
No, just as Mr. Cully indicated, September 3rd, we'll have the meeting at Meadow Event Park. Certainly, I would love for all the board members as well as any staff members to attend. I think it's going to be a great event.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Akers. You have Mr.
No, sir,
Sealy?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I believe, isn't the grand opening for CVS Monday morning at 7:30? I know many of you don't get up that early, but yeah, the ribbon cutting for CVS is on Monday, the 24th at 7:30 a.m. So any board members who are free at that time? 7:30 a.m. Ribbon cutting at the site, I believe. Yeah, it's got to
It
be.
is, ribbon cutting started on 7:30 on the 24th.
Right.
Now, can I?
Certainly.
Okay, because I did fail to mention this. We did get a letter from the Postal Service indicating that they were going to, in August of 2016, they were going to close the existing Ladysmith building. The landowner or the landlord will not extend the lease to them. They are having a meeting, a public meeting at Wright's Chapel Church at 5:30? I think it's 5:30 on the 26th. He's going to
Anybody
get
know why the landowner
Yeah,
won't it?
yeah, I do. I know him, and he just hasn't wanted it. The 26th. Huh? That's exactly.
5:30 Rice Chapel.
Yeah, 5:30 Rice Chapel. And they're going to basically be sharing with the residents and the people in the area that use the Ladysmith Post Office as to what their plans are. And so, again, hopefully this, well, that's right, it doesn't televise on the outside of the county, but at least the newspapers can put something in their newspapers about it, and I'm sure they will also have some type of advertisement about it.
Okay, that takes care of the, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Cully?
Earlier, it kind of slipped by. We didn't really take any action, or maybe you didn't want to, on the through truck restriction on the two roads that are included in your packet.
Yep.
A public hearing will be required if you want to consider that.
Right. Do you want to schedule that or not?
But I thought they had to go to it was like the FTC or the Department of Commerce, something, because when we did Dry Bridge Road.
Yeah, that was a long ordeal.
We did it, and then it went to VDOT, and then I think it had to go to some other trucking-related entity. So
There's all sorts of procedures. VDOT has brought it to your attention because they've gotten the request for it. You would have to hold a public hearing. Then once that's done, then they go through a process before they ever post the road.
So us saying yes or no just really starts the process, is what you're saying.
Yes, sir. As part of your process, you actually have to post an alternative route for the truck traffic. which was posted the last time
When we did Dry Bridge Road.
and did not include McBryant or Moores Mill Road. So they're taking,
We have to do a public hearing to do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, that's what we did for Dry Bridge, but that was like 10 years ago we did Dry Bridge Road.
No, I was on the board then,
Okay, 8 years ago.
7 years ago.
Okay, so we need to,
Yeah, 6.
If you want.
if you would like to do that, we need to schedule it for public hearing.
or at least authorize the public hearing.
Or authorize.
We could then work with VDOT on the timing to get it to the
So we would have
board.
to authorize public hearing. But we need a motion to do that, is that right?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we would
Authorize
authorize
public hearing.
public hearing to look at truck route on McBryant Road
And Moore's Mill Road.
and Moore's Mill.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we would authorize public hearing on Dry Bridge, is it Dry Bridge? No, Moore's Mill
And McBride.
and McBride roads. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Okay, that takes us to closed meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that this board convene in closed session pursuant to the section, to the acquisition of real property, contract, and legal exemptions under section 2.23711A3 and 2.23711A29 and 2.23711A7 of the Code of Virginia to discuss the potential acquisition of real estate for the county's wastewater system and a contract therefore where the discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the county's bargaining position and negotiating strategy, and 2, legal status of advice regarding the potential settlement of a zoning enforcement action.
Okay, is there a second? It's been moved and properly second that we would go into executive sessions under those specific codes mentioned. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. We are now, okay, is there a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, just,
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
okay, it's been moved by Mr. Akers.
I think they're gone.
I don't know if it's a law that says we do. They just got to come back. If they ain't here, that's.
He's good. All right.
All right, it's been moved and properly second, or is there a second? So we come out of executive session. Been moved and properly second that we come out of executive session. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Mr. Thomas, do you certify that we only discussed those things that were appropriate under the rules that we went in under in executive session?
Mr. Chairman, I so certify.
Mr. Black?
I so certify.
Mr. Underwood? Mr. Akers?
Mr. Chairman, I so certify.
Mr. Sealy?
I so certify.
And I so certify as well. Is there a motion? As a result of the executive session, is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we agree to the settlement presented by council with the Hendersons.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we agree or proceed with the settlement as presented by the staff. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, how do you vote?
I voted aye, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Black?
Nay.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye.
Mr. Akers?
Aye.
Mr. Sealy?
Nay.
And I vote aye as well. Move for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved. Good night.